Hello. uh, I've been listening to like conspiracy podcasts and reading Wikipedia pages and fan wikis literally since I woke up. My brain is so full and it hurts. Now I'm like nervous for some reason. Oh god. They're coming for me. They're coming to get me. I know too much. I know too much, and the men in black are gonna come get me, you guys. They're gonna take me away. They're gonna cut me open and study me. Okay. Oh. Welcome to my, kind of, like, sad and lame little iceberg, or not iceberg, tier list that I made. It doesn't really have that many things on it. It has, like, some funny little creatures that I like that, I felt like this would be a good excuse for. There's not really a lot of cryptids, I feel. I was looking up, like, just any, like, other cryptid tier lists or cryptid icebergs that people have made, and a lot of them were just, like, normal animals, and I feel like that's no fun, because then I would just have to put so many things in, like, F tier, because I'm like, that's not a cryptid, that's just an animal. I did put a couple of just that animal in to like fill up space because if I only put things that I thought were interesting and cool, it would just be all like S and A tier, and then it would be that would defeat the purpose. It would just be Eilis talks about cryptids she thinks are interesting for 2 hours, which might be fun, but it's not the theme. You're supposed to do a tier list. People love tier lists. It's everybody's favorite. 5 years ago on YouTube, I did look up YouTube videos of tier other people doing tier lists to see if they had like any interesting ones that I hadn't heard of, and one of them was literally 5 years ago, and it was somebody being like, tier lists are popular right now in the description, and I was like, oh god, really? It's been that long since people started this? What's good? Hopefully this stream. Who knew that Sesame Street was a cryptid? I see you noticed the evil Muppets. We'll get to that. I don't know if I want to do these in order or just pick random ones. I don't really know how to start, actually. Whatever. I also wrote notes for myself, but that means I'm gonna have to switch between my windows and read my notes. And I only wrote notes for some of them because I got sick of writing notes. I hate writing notes. Whatever. What did I know I gave myself a tier for Bigfoot. Let me check on my note. I'm gonna open them up on my phone. This is an incredibly professional stream that I totally put a lot of work into putting together, and I definitely didn't literally put my last cryptid on the list like 3 minutes before I started. Okay, so Bigfoot is like somehow like 5 cryptids deep on my notes. I forgot about Bigfoot. Okay, Bigfoot just gets he's no, not C. Don't do that. Don't get all the Bigfoot heads after me. He's an A. He's just a good like baseline, well-known cryptid that people enjoy. There's also a lot of like Bigfoot wannabes. We have Skunk Ape down in here as just an actual as another, just to give like secondary Bigfoot. I like Skunk Ape. I think Skunk Ape's funny. Bigfoot is there's just so much Bigfoot on the internet that it's kind of hard to give him like an honest ranking. Because I don't really care about Bigfoot, but so many people also care about Bigfoot. I think I probably would put it in B, but I have not very recently, but relatively recently, on one of my cryptid podcasts that I keep shilling, there was like this one that's like Bigfoot adjacent, a man-ape creature, and it's like a story about like a family of them that like attacked this child and his dad. Like the stories, there's literally 3 episodes of a podcast dedicated to it, but it's like some kid sees like a weird like monkey boy creature, and he's like, oh my god, I'm gonna make friends with it, and I'm gonna tell all my friends that I'm friends with this weird monkey boy creature, and then he does, and then other kids become quote-unquote friends with the weird monkey boy creature, and one of them like finds the monkey boy creature, the small Bigfoot, the Smallfoot, hanging out like in his family's barn or whatever, and he tries to like play with it, like and the Smallfoot like starts doing like the monkey beating on his chest thing, and the kid's like, oh, that's fun, I'll do that too. So he does that too, and it makes the Bigfoot very, very angry, and he starts attacking the kid, and like the other larger Bigfoots come in and also start like attacking the kid. He wasn't torn limb from limb, he was fine. He was very shaken up. He had to get his dad, and his dad took like a gun and like scared off the Bigfoots. There was a whole lot going on in that story. I don't know how much of it was possibly true. I think there were some bits of it that were like very suspicious, but I don't know if I'm misremembering. Like he said that I don't even know if I'm putting this together with like a different story that I heard about something else, but he was like, oh, this guy named John Redcorn came to investigate the Bigfoot, and the guys on the podcast were like, isn't that just that's a character from King of the Hill? So I don't know if he was trying to do like a cheeky fake name thing, or if he just was totally lying and that's the only like Native American-esque name he could come up with to like have his fun like Men in Black adjacent OC who defeated the Bigfoots. Anyway, there's my half-remembered Bigfoot story. This is gonna be great. I'm not gonna sound like a big idiot fool fake fan this whole time. Kid maxed out all his skill points on defense. I think mostly his dad was the defense. He did have the gun, if I remember correctly. Great. There's your Bigfoot information for the stream. We have Black-Eyed Kids. I like Black-Eyed Kids. I think they're like a strong A. They're not quite S. They're not exactly the vibe that I'm looking for, but they are like intriguing. They're fun and interesting in like just a spooky, vaguely ghost-ish kind of way. I like a Black-Eyed Kid. I mentioned yesterday that there was a podcast that I listened to where they interviewed the guy who saw them and like made them popular basically, and I went back into my archives and I I looked up the podcast. If you want to listen to an interview with the guy, it's on Astonishing Legends Black-Eyed Kids Part 2, and they're interviewing Brian Bethel, who is the guy who like popularized the urban legend basically. And his story was that he it was like the 90s, and he was going to send a check to his internet provider because it was the 90s. So he drove out to wherever they do checks, which was like near a movie theater in his town. And he did what he had to do. He did his business. And then he went back into his car to drive home, as you do. And some kids came like up to him from like outside of the movie theater, and they were like, hey mister, can you like drive us home? Because we forgot our money for the movie. Can you drive us home so that we can get our money from our mom, thanks? And he was like, what movie were you gonna see? And the kids were like, Mortal Kombat, because it was the 90s. And he like looks up at the theater sign, and it's like Mortal Kombat starts 9:30, and it was like 9:45. He was like, if I get these kids back home and then drive them all the way back here, the movie's gonna be like over. And so he was like suspicious and like a little spooked about them, and then he looked back and suddenly they had spooky black eyes, and they were like, listen, let us into the car. We can't come in unless you let us into the car. You have to say it's okay, as though they're like vampires. And they can't come in unless they're invited. And he was like, no, sorry, like I forgot to do something by, and then he just drove away. And that's the story. But also, like, it seems like the Black-Eyed Kids generally have a thing where like they come to your house and they vampire you, they ask you to be let in, and people don't notice that they have spooky, scary black eyes until like halfway through whatever conversation they're having with them, which is intriguing. I wonder how they do it. Yeah, one of the kids, like, they don't know how to talk to people. They're really bad. They should probably observe more child and adult person interactions, because another one of the lines that they said to the guy was like, why are you so scared to let us into your car? We don't have a gun. Which is like threatening. That sounds like you do have a gun and you're just trying to convince me very poorly otherwise. So yeah, don't trust any mysterious children coming to your home or your vehicle in the middle of the night. That's a bad idea. Just throw them out in the cold. They're fine. They'll find somebody else to let them in if they're like a real child. Self-preservation is very important. Oh, I do want to... Where did I put my shadow people? Oh my god, this text is so small. I need to put myself up top. Did I forget to put in shadow? No, I didn't. Okay. There... Me. I win. I'm number one. I'm S tier. Everybody love me. I'm the best cryptid ever. Oh, great. So I just noticed this has like a little... Can I move? This counts as a tier, apparently. What a sight. I shouldn't bully. I shouldn't bully. I would not be able to make a site. I just think it's funny that everybody is in mid. No, everybody's in B tier. Okay. No, everybody's in F. Get back down there. Okay. I didn't know that would change the label. Oh god. Oh jeez. OMG, Alice is so cool and cryptid and cool. You're so right, bestie. Everybody shower me with like appreciation and love. Okay, we're getting through like basic, like nothing cryptids at the beginning. I don't have anything like fun to say about them. Whoops, this might have been a poorly thought out plan. Okay, Loch Ness Monster. I'm also giving Loch Ness Monster an A. Am I giving Loch Ness Monster an A? I'm giving Loch Ness Monster an A. That's just the classic, like basic cryptids that everybody knows and loves. I feel rude giving them less than an A, even if I don't personally care about them. There are so many people who truly love Loch Ness Monster. She's fine. She's a creature in a lake. I do have other lake monsters. I'm putting those on, like, C tier. At best, that's me being kind if there's, like, ones that are interesting that I don't really know about. But I feel like every single one that I've ever heard anything about or, like, read anything about is just, like, it's Loch Ness Monster, but we transplanted her into, like, an American lake. Isn't that crazy? Isn't that interesting? Aren't we special? They're riding Nessie's coattails and I don't appreciate it. I need people to come up with more interesting local cryptids. Your taste is so tradition and refined, it makes me want to shower you praise just like you asked. Thank you! Lake monsters should be B tier because actual lake fish can be spooky by themselves, so that gets bonus points. Yeah, but lake monsters to me is 90% just, it's Nessie shaped, but it's in a different lake. There are other lake monsters that I'm sure are more interesting. But to me, lake monster is just discount Nessie. Have you seen that movie where someone took care of the Loch Ness Monster as a baby and let it grow up and let it let it free from the government? I haven't seen it in a while. I feel like I may vaguely remember something like that. But I don't know if you've just implanted a false memory in my brain. I do have another lake monster. I don't actually know. I didn't really write notes on this one. The Beast of Busco, which I'm gonna have to be mean and put this lake monster in like F tier. I'm gonna have to be horrible and rude because the Beast of Busco is just like a really big snapping turtle. There's nothing intriguing about this beast. It's just a snapping turtle but large. I hate it when a cryptid is just an animal but large. Yeah, this is just a picture of an actual snapping turtle because I googled Beast of Busco and they were literally all just pictures of an actual snapping turtle but with like a spooky effect over the top. Like nobody's even drawn pictures of the guy. And when it was quote unquote like I don't know, when people had quote unquote experiences with the Beast of Busco, it was literally just there's an alligator snapping turtle in here and it's really big. It was like on some guy's farmland. There was like a lake on some guy's farmland, and he convinced himself that there was like this giant like 10-foot wide snapping turtle in his lake, and he like went insane like draining the lake, and like he brought it. He like had female snapping turtles imported from like other parts of the United States to like try and lure it out with like a cute turtle girlfriend, and it didn't work. So he like wasted all of his money taking in like turtles from like Florida and trying to get them to like mate with his beast so that he could capture it, I guess. And he drained his lake and like ruined all his land because he drained his lake and he just went bankrupt and he never even found the stupid turtle. So it's just like, that's just sad. Busco isn't fooled by thought turtles. He's a Sigma male, he doesn't care. I think giant snapping turtle could be like scary, but just because nothing ever even happened and it was only like this one guy that ever saw it and he wasted all of his money trying to find it and then didn't even find it after he drained the lake. I think that he might have just been insane. He might have just seen a regular sized snapping turtle and like fisherman tailed himself into thinking that it was super huge and big and cool and he wanted everybody to like him and then it just didn't work. So that's our first F tier. Sorry Beast of Busco. I'm very sorry. How about Chupacabra? Chupacabra is another classic cryptid. I'm not really sure what to do about Chupacabra, especially I don't really know much about that one, honestly. I read when I was like a child, like spooky stories about Chupacabra, and that's 90% of the information that I have on it. I do know that there's like 2 flavors of all the way down. I don't want to put it in a tier yet. I know there's like 2 flavors of Chupacabra. There's like American Chupacabra and then Mexican maybe Chupacabra. I don't know if those are actually... No, there's an American one and some in a Hispanic speaking country. And the American one is just like a dog. And the Spanish speaking one is like a big lizard. Which is more interesting, I think. And people in like Texas and stuff keep being like, I found the Chupacabra! I killed it, you guys! I have Chupacabra evidence! And then they bring in a cryptozoologist and they're just like, yeah, that's just a dog. So people just keep killing like sad, mangy, like feral dogs and thinking that they got the Chupacabra. Solid B. Not as fun as Bigfoot, but the classics that make the whole cryptid basics feel like cryptids. It's a standard. That's reasonable, I think. You can convince me to put things in tiers when I have no idea what I'm doing. There's our Chupacabra. I don't even have any like fun Chupacabra stories. I think I've listened to one podcast that mentioned the Chupacabra and it was mostly just talking about how people were shooting dogs and how that was kind of sad and lame. Poor B tier Chupacabra. At least we have all the tiers filled out. So far, well, not filled out, but like 1 in each tier. That's important. We also have Dogmen. I feel like I didn't do any research on these because I was distracted with other stuff. I needed more time. There's not enough time in the day to learn all about the cryptids that I want to learn about, you guys. It's so sad. My favorite story is La Llorona, the Weeping Woman, great story, but a ghost, so it's out the window. Yeah, I don't think I really have any ghosts. I do have some things that I wouldn't consider cryptids on the list just to, like, fill it out, because I'm so bad at remembering creatures, and a lot of them just were not intriguing to me. But, you know. Oh, this is... I should have maybe not decided to do this within, like, 8 hours, and maybe I should have thought longer. Oopsie. Okay, Dogmen. There's a lot of Dogman stories, and I feel like I don't remember anything about any of them. They are not very memorable tales to me. But werewolves are cool. It's like between B and C. I don't really care, but I don't have any specific, like, negative associations with them, so I guess I say Dogmen. Dogmen go B tier. They're just okay. I don't dislike them. I was crunching for the cryptid test, you're so right. It's just like studying for tests in college. I give myself 5 hours to study, and then I don't actually remember any of the information I studied because it happened too fast. But yeah, I know there's a bunch of Dogman stories, and I think all of them are just I was driving down the road and I saw a spooky Dogman, and then nothing else happens. There's probably the other ones, but just the general bit that I remember is just, I saw a Dogman, crazy, right? And then I drove away. And then it's not fun. Where's my whimsy, you guys? I need my whimsy. I'm going through these like too fast. Oh man. I also have the Dover Demon. I know I wrote notes about this one. Where are you? Where are you on my list? Okay. The Dover Demon. I did write a bunch of notes about the Dover Demon. For some reason. I think it's a not C. It's a B tier. It's an alright little guy. I do like, I looked up on like, I read the Wikipedia page, and one of the kids who saw it, because it was like only, I think it was like only like kids and like young teenagers that saw the Dover Demon, but one of the kids said, "I swear on a stack of Bibles that I saw this creature, and I just can't disbelieve that child." He seems so earnest. He swears on an entire stack of Bibles that he saw like a little alien thing with a big head and like creepy fingers running around on the road. I can appreciate that. He truly believes it, so who am I to say that it's a trash cryptid? Also, some other kid like saw it and thought it was like a deformed like child, like a local kid with just like a weird gross head. And like chased it through the woods for a little while, and then it like jumped across a river, and they just sort of like stared at it. They had a little staring contest across the river, and then he got just spooked and ran away, which I think is funny. Because he was like, there was like, when he gave his testimony to the police or whatever, he was just so like realistically rambling about like how terrifying it was and how nothing even happened, but he was like so scared, and he was like, well, I looked at it and it looked at me, and I was like, is it gonna do something evil? Is it gonna like jump at me and attack me? And then like they were just standing there motionless for like a couple of minutes, and then he was just like, I'm not letting it jump out and attack me. I'm gonna run before it gets me. And it just ran while the thing just still sits there doing nothing, looking at him. Thought it was a Doverku for a second. I was about to argue that B tier. Yeah, that one isn't that a cryptid? I saw that on a couple of lists, and to me that was just like a mythological creature of some kind. I don't know. I should have done more research. I'm gonna keep saying that this entire time. Oh no. But that one, a lot of, I think it's just because it's like Irish-esque, and all of the Irish-esque names to me just read a fantasy creature. And like I wouldn't put like Banshee or Dullahan or whatever on a cryptid list. I wouldn't think that those were cryptids. So usually when I hear like a leprechaun or something, I wouldn't think that that would be cryptidy. I feel like there has to be, I don't know, at least some sort of science or alien thing happening for it to count. I actually don't really know much about the Doverku though. I just know that it's like a big water dog creature thing. Maybe I should look those up. Maybe I should not pretend that I'm an expert on cryptids. Just because it was a history thing doesn't mean it doesn't make it a cryptid. Yeah. I was googling it, autofilled sightings, which makes me think people are still searching for it. I kind of ran out of time. I do just assume that anything that's like ye olden, anything that's like a ye olden times creature, I don't really think that they can be considered cryptids a lot of the time. I don't know why. My brain just doesn't want them to be cryptids. I think if I'm like anything before like 1900, my brain is like, that's not a cryptid, that's just a folklore. I'm pretty sure I do actually have some folklores on this though, so like what's the point? I do have some of the fearsome critters, which are completely fake and everybody knows that they're fake, but I just think they're funny silly, so I did put a couple on them. Don't think spirits count as cryptids. Yeah, ghosts are not cryptids. Ghosts are different. Ghosts are a different thing. Ignore the fact that I have something that says ghost on it. That's different. That doesn't count. That's not quite a ghost. We'll get to it. I'm doing them in order, I think. Have I been doing them in order? Mythological tier list after this? I don't really know much about mythology, honestly. See, you took a photo of your child. It's my darling boy, the goat man. My beautiful son. Look how well he's grown up. You really can't see. These images are so small. Look at my son, gray blob. Okay, we have also Fresno Nightcrawlers, which I'm gonna be an insane person. I'm gonna put them in S tier. Just because I think they're funny. I think they're cute. They're just little walking pants. My tiers are gonna be incredibly arbitrary. It's just gonna be if I think that it's funny, it'll go into S tier. I don't care about how plausible they are. If they're actually like well documented or anything. If I think it's funny, silly, or like interesting, it's probably gonna go in S tier or A tier. My opinion is the only opinion that matters. But yeah, Fresno Nightcrawlers I like because one, they're just like a funny little shape. They're just little pants. And also because like the guy who took the original footage of them, I think this image is taken from it. It's like night vision footage in someone's backyard. He was like he had like a comedy of errors trying to get it to the news station people. It was really funny because he had there was a problem where like at around the same time in like the middle of the night every night, like every dog in his town would start barking and going crazy. And he was like, I gotta get to the bottom of this. I need to figure out what's freaking out the dogs. So he set up a night vision camera and then he connected it to it was like just a night vision camera that like you buy at the store, not like real top quality. And then he connected it to an old CCTV, and then he connected the CCTV to a VHS thing. And so he one night all the dogs started barking, and he looked on his CCTV, and he saw the Fresno Nightcrawlers. Whoa, crazy! And then he was like, "Oh my god, what an insane creature! I need to tell the news." So he like called the local news and he was like, I need you to see this crazy thing that I caught on my camera. And because they were the local news and they had no news to tell, they were like, yeah, sure, okay. And so they came over to his house and they couldn't figure out how to get his recording on the VHS onto whatever equipment they were using for the news. And so one of the reporter people just took out like a camcorder and just filmed his CCTV, like his actual television screen, his CCTV, and then that's what they put on the news. So the video is just like so horribly crunchy. It's got like 10 pixels in it and you can't see anything, and I just think that's very funny. Name reminds me of the Hawaii Night Marches, which are super spooky, so it gets my approval. Those are fun. Those are like a cool ghost. I didn't actually really look those up because, again, they felt ghostly to me, so I didn't know if they would count. But I have read stories about just like people going out onto the beach and seeing spooky Hawaiian ghosts walking around, which is interesting. Including yokai. Nah, yokai is more mythological, I think. I mean, are there a couple? I think a couple of them are sort of in the fearsome critters category, but I didn't really have time. Like Tsuchinoko, I feel like that's less of like a mystical creature and more of just a silly little animal that somebody was like, look, I think I might have seen a silly little animal, and then everybody just makes jokes about it like they do with the fearsome critters. I do think a lot of yokai are very interesting. Maybe at some point I can do a mythological creature list. I would have to have more time to actually research things, because while I am interested in mythology, I don't retain as much information about it as I do about just like weird conspiracy nonsense. But I did, one time for school, I did a whole presentation on like Irish fairy lore, and I had to talk to my class for a whole 30 minutes about the various fae, which is fun. Night marchers are ghosts of kings and soldiers that are in army march, and if you disrespect them by looking at them and not bowing, they super kill you. You gotta show respect to the ghouls. You have to be nice to them. They're already dead. They're already having a bad time being dead. Make them feel good about themselves for a little while. Okay, goatmen. Goatmen's another one that I don't really know what to do with them. I think probably just C. Maybe. I feel like I've made C the tier where I put creatures that I kind of actively dislike. It's in between active dislike and I don't care. And I do not actively dislike the goatmen. I give my child S tier. I'm sorry, my child is a B tier child. I do like the Goatman story where it's just like a mad scientist got turned into a half goat, half man. Because it's just so silly and probably not real. I have to say probably. Just in case. Just in case the Goatman comes after me. Surprised there's no D tier. There is a button on this website to change the amount of tiers. But it's either... It's 5 tiers, 7 tiers, or like 3 tiers, I think. And I felt like 7 tiers was too many. So we're making like S tiers. I think they're really neat for no reason. A tier is like just a classic creature. B tier is it's okay. I have no negative feelings about this creature. C tier is I kind of dislike you on some kind of principle. And F tier is that's just an animal. That's just a regular animal. I think those are my general tier concepts. Is that the right word? Those are what the tiers mean to me. S tier is I personally want to be friends with you. Jersey Devil. Jersey Devil is a good classic one. I have fond childhood memories of the Jersey Devil. Because I had some cousins who lived in New Jersey, and they had a coffee table book called Weird NJ, and every time I went over to their house, I would read their coffee table book of Weird New Jersey, because I didn't want to talk to anybody. And so I did read and reread the, like, origin story of the Jersey Devil probably 50 times throughout my entire childhood. So I gotta be nice to my boy the Jersey Devil. There's, I think, a couple of stories about the Jersey Devil, but I only really know the one where it's a woman has a bunch of kids and she's so mad about having to have a bunch of kids that she puts a curse on one of her kids, and then it comes out and it's the Jersey Devil and it just flies away, and then it comes back later and I think kills all of them. There's probably other Jersey Devil lore, like it's actually the devil, but that's the one that I remember. That's my personal Jersey Devil backstory. When I had one of those dragon books, I think the Jersey Devil's in there, or maybe a monster spin-off. I had a dragon book as a child. I don't know if it would be that specific one, but I think the one that I had was more, I think it was like D&D based, because I do remember it had a lot of dragons that were, like metallic, like copper dragon, gold dragon, bronze dragon, etc. And those are a D&D thing, to my knowledge. I don't know if I saw a Jersey Devil type of creature in there. I would be intrigued to look. How do you make that into a dragon? I feel like it's just a little bit too silly. It does look kind of like a medieval, like, manuscript creature, where they just shove a bunch of different animal parts onto each other, and they're like, yep, there's my monster, let me doodle that in the corner of this Bible. Someone spilled red rum all over the floor. No, gosh darn. Now I gotta clean up all this murder. There's the monster manual. It wasn't the monster manual, I promise. It was like, it was one of the ology books, I think. It was, if you had those, there was like dragonology, Egyptology, and it was not actually about Egyptology, it was about mummies coming to life. And the various other ones. Wizardology, I think, was one of them. Just take any word and add ology to the end of it, and it, you can sell that to kids like crazy. They eat that up. They love those. Just a monsters book. Yeah, monsters book makes more sense for the Jersey Devil. Not everything that has spooky bat wings needs to be a dragon. Sometimes it's just a creature. Oh, we have Loveland Frogmen. I'm gonna be a little silly. I'm gonna put them also in A tier. I think they're like not an incredibly well-known cryptid, or if they are, it's just because, like, isn't it funny, that big frog? But like the first sighting of them, to my knowledge, was like in the 50s. There was some guy driving down the road. It's always driving down the road when it's a creature, man. He's like driving down the road and he saw three Loveland Frogmen, like, standing around wearing pants and no shirts, just pants. And one of them, like, took out a weird magic wand type of item and it glowed blue, and then he, like, put it in a holster on his pants, and then just they, like, looked back at him and like noticed he was there, and he was like, I gotta get out of here, and he just like ran away. But then there were like stories later where it was just like, oh, I saw one big frog wearing no clothing. They're in the nude now in like the 70s or something. And then it like ran away, which is much less funny. I think it's funny that they were wearing silly little pants. I want to know why they were wearing pants. Were they aliens? Or were they like, I don't know, mutant men? The Frog Prince halfway through a transformation, perhaps? Why do they have a magic wand? There's so much whimsy. They're so odd. And the more recent ones were just like, one of them was like a cop was driving down the road as usual and saw one, and then it ran away, and then another cop that knew that first cop later was also driving down the road and saw one of them, and it ran away, and then later the second cop was like, oh no, actually, it was an iguana with no tail, and it stood up on its hind legs, and it ran, and I shot at it. And I'm like, you can't change your story. You can't say that it was an iguana with no tail. Also, this happened in, like, winter. An iguana would not be out there. Why would it not have a tail? What's the iguana situation in Loveland? I don't believe him. I think he's a coward. I think he was walking it back. I think the Men in Black might have got to him. That's my hot take, is that everything is the Men in Black's fault. Whenever somebody sees a cryptid and then later is like, oh no, actually I was lying, it's because they got intimidated by the Men in Black. Coincidentally, Men in Black is our next one, and I do feel that Men in Black are an S-tier creature. They are more alien adjacent than a lot of other cryptids, but I think they're fun. Also, there's so many weird stories about them that are like, they're just all so different, but also incredibly weird. The Men in Black is an F tier because the FBI are real and I hate them. No, don't say that about the Men in Black. No, they're different. They're not the FBI. They're totally different. They're like weird robot men. There's like, I'm trying to think of all the millions of Men in Black stories that I've listened to and read, because there's so many where it's just like just a strange person comes to somebody's house and tells them, hey, don't talk about UFOs anymore. I'm gonna be ominous at you, and then they just leave. There was one, I forget the people's names, as I often do. I'm so bad at names. There was one, where this, guy who did a lot of UFO research died of something, and then, somebody who had, like, vaguely known him had a Man in Black come to his house. The Man in Black called him on the phone and was like, hey, can I come to your house and talk about, this UFO stuff? And he was like, oh yeah, sure, definitely. And then he went to like turn on the porch light so that the guy would know which house to come to, and the Man in Black was already there. And this was like pre-cell phone era, so it's very strange that he was already there. And then he came into his house and told him, hey, do you know how this guy died? And he was like, oh, I think he had like a heart attack or something, right? And he was like, haha, no, take a coin out of your pocket. And they was like, okay, and like takes a coin out of his pocket and gives it to the Man in Black. And then the Man in Black just like melts it and is like, this is what happened to that guy's heart. Okay, bye. And then just leaves. He's like, don't talk about UFOs anymore, bye. And then just goes. So, scary, but also goofy. Why did he do that? And then the guy didn't even have a heart attack. He died of something else. I don't remember what of, because I am a very bad storyteller. And, like, usually they look not like people, like, not entirely. Like, they're trying really hard to look like people, but they're just really not good at it. Like, they're just messed up, horrible clones of some kind. Did it to show his power. He's just being a show-off. I'm sorry. I was literally listening to podcasts on, like, 1.6 times speed all day. All of the information is coalescing into a blob of nothing in my head. So I know so many things, I'm not going to be able to reliably tell them to you. I have my notes. I don't even know if I wrote down anything about the Men in Black in my notes. Did I? Oh, I did write a Men in Black, like, adjacent thing in my notes, which was the DC Papermen, which is another thing that a whole podcast episode was about that I just thought was fun and interesting. And they're kind of Men in Black-esque, where there was this guy who was working for the Postal Service, and he was taking mail into various government buildings, and so he one day was taking the mail into his government building, and he saw these like weird flat men in black suits, and they were like not entirely flat, but sort of like a little like weirdly skinny and oddly shaped, and when they walked they sort of waddled back and forth as if they didn't have joints in their legs. And it was three identical guys just like all walking together, and they just walk into the government building that he was supposed to be bringing the mail to, and the guy was like, oh, I don't like that, but this is my job to give them the mail. So he went in, and he was like confronted by the people working there, and they were like, you didn't see anything, did you? And he was like, no, totally, no, I didn't see anything, like incredibly suspiciously. And they're like, you promised you saw something, didn't you? Did you see something? He was like, no, totally not. Here's your mail, and then just left. So that's scary. I don't like that. I would be so upset if I went into work and was just expecting to do my business and leave, and then I was interrogated about, hey, did you see that weird thing that just happened? Did you see it? I think you saw it. Did you see it? I know that you saw it. And like having to convince these scary government people that you totally definitely don't know what they're talking about. I think I would break down. I would just tell them, yes, I'm so sorry. Mind erase me or whatever. Man was high and played Paper Mario earlier. Maybe. I actually don't know what year this was in. I forget. Not really important to the story. Possibly before Paper Mario. I don't know. There's actually, I did find a little animation that somebody made of it when I was, because the actual original story was written on a website, so when I was trying to look up more information about them, I did find a little animation that somebody made. I wonder, maybe we could watch that. It's got 95 views on YouTube. Let me see if I can look that up. Just for funsies. Just wait with bated breath as I Google things. Oh my god, my internet. Also, when you Google Paperman, it just comes up with a DC character. How convenient. Okay. Let's see if I can. I'm gonna disappear my browser window for a second. No, my browser window, where'd it go? I don't want things to appear that shouldn't appear on my screen. Please don't play an advertisement, YouTube. Oh, it didn't even play an advertisement. That's so nice of it. Let me turn some things on and off. I need to turn off my music. Okay. Is it showing up? Oh no, it's not. I turned off my browser. Professional! And I need to scooch it. That's not the thing I need to scooch. Oh god! Everything's going horribly wrong. Here's the DC Paperman. You can also see what looks like naked plushy Mario in the corner. How delightful. Okay. Here it is. Here, unmute it. So you can get the full story. I love this man with his mullet. I love the ominous music. It's so good. Horrifying. Marching like they're in Paper Mario.
What did you see?
No, I didn't see anything.
What did you see?
Nothing.
Oh my god, you guys, it's him.
What did you see?
I saw nothing.
Please.
Leave now.
Okay.
Sure, definitely. There he goes. Swerving down the road. There's the video. There's the fun video I found. Oh, don't start playing other things. What is this? I'm not clicking on that. I don't want to see whatever content farm that is. Let me put this back in place. Get over here. Okay. There. That's the story, told much more succinctly than I could. But that's literally just the whole event. Was I saw some weird flat men walk into a government building and then was told to get out. And then another thing that is not in the animation because you can't really animate that easily is that the guy had it like went back to work and had his route changed. Like not that he said, "Can you please change my route?" but that like his boss maybe like got a call from the government people and were like, "He's seen too much. Change his route. Put him somewhere else." And he did, so he never saw the Papermen ever again, which, depending on how you look at it, is a bad thing because no more cryptids, no, or a good thing because, well, they probably won't, I don't know, paper cut him to death. They're more advanced doodlebot. True. I wonder, they didn't speak. I wonder if they said mihoy minoi. More research to be done. Let's go out searching for the DC Papermen. Let's try and communicate with them. I'm sure everything will go well. Okay. Now, see, now we've had a fun little bonding experience where we get to watch a video together, and I need to bring up all my windows into the right spot again. Okay. Here we are. Sounds like drug-induced paranoia to me. As far as I know, the man was not on drugs. But who's to say? People can lie on the internet. He could have left that out. What's Paperman's powers? Being flat, I assume? I don't know, I didn't actually read the DC wiki. I was a little distracted with research. My tinfoil hat research. I probably would have been funny if I brought in tinfoil hat PNG, but I really didn't want to. I didn't want to do that. That would take extra work. I'm lazy. It's on the thumbnail, that's good enough. We're to Mothman! It's Mothman time, you guys. It's time for me to freak out about Mothman. There's so much Mothman. I don't think I could properly talk enough about how much Mothman there is. Cause I'm trying to like put a timeline together in my brain of Mothman things that I should talk about. But yeah, Mothman was in Point Pleasant in West Virginia. There's so many cryptids in West Virginia for some reason. I don't know why they love the place so much. But Mothman was just like everybody in town saw this creature at some point, it seems like. And they had like one police officer that was getting literally every single sighting reported to him. He was just the king of Mothman sightings. Every time somebody saw the creature, they were like, "Deputy, I got more Mothmans for you." And he would just have to follow up on like every single Mothman case, which I think is funny. Because it was like a small town, so they really only had one guy to tell all their stories to. But yeah, everybody in this town saw this Mothman at some point. There was a couple people hanging out in like an abandoned factory area, the TNT area. And they saw the Mothman, and then they were freaked out, and they went to the deputy, and they were like, "Mr. Deputy, I saw a Mothman." He was like, "Crazy." And then they went and investigated it, and I don't remember if they saw anything. I think they might have like had some like spooky vibes, but I don't think they specifically saw it when they went to investigate the first time. And then just a bunch of other people also saw it at varying times. There was like a family that was going to visit some people, and like there was like a couple of adults and like some parents and their children, and one of the parents had like a baby that she was carrying, and she saw the Mothman, and then she just fell on top of her baby because she was so scared and she couldn't get up. And she had to have one of the other adults in the group just like yank her up and drag her into the house before she suffocated her child with her body weight, which is horrifying. And Mothman did probably maybe kill a bunch of dogs. There was a lot of dead dog events. I was re-listening to the Mothman podcast that I have. It's like 5 or 6 episodes of just Mothman material. And I feel like every episode they're like, by the way, there's more dead dogs, which is sad, but it can't all be sunshine and rainbows. Sadly, cryptids aren't actually nice, and they probably wouldn't actually want to be friends with me. There was a one guy doing all the investigations, reminding me of historians writing about conversations that literally no one could have been present to write down. Like the one police officer is a totemic representation of the entire police department on the Mothman case. I'm pretty sure like other officers did some stuff, but it's just like in every story, it seems like everybody just goes to this one guy, probably because he was just like the front desk guy at night when most people were seeing spooky creatures. And so he just ended up having to hear all of them. I forget his name. I'm so bad at remembering names. But it's just like his name kept coming up. There were also a bunch of like alien stuff, alien things happening. People were seeing UFOs and such. So people were like, maybe Mothman is an alien. But maybe it's just like the veil was ripped open over Point Pleasant and just like every creature ever decided to show up for a little while, because there were a bunch of unrelated to Mothman, non-Mothman, other creature sightings, just that kind of got overshadowed by the fact that there was a Mothman there. And also the aliens. People do talk about the spaceships, the spaceship events happening, just less so than Mothman, because it's a little less fun. Everybody knows what a UFO is, but Mothman was like new and interesting. People go yada yada yada. I reported it to Carl at the front desk, so he became the face of the entire investigation. Yeah, I don't know if he specifically went out and actually physically investigated anything other than like that first one, but it's just that he was the guy who got all the initial reports, so he gets mentioned in every story because he's just the guy that they talk to. There were also a lot of men in black involved in the Mothman situation. There was this one lady in town who was sort of a paranormal investigator, and she was like collecting a bunch of the Mothman stories and the alien stories and the other like weird things sighting stories. And she had some like strange Men in Black-esque figures like come to her office and tell her, "Hey, what would you do if people told you to stop writing about UFOs?" And she was like, "I'd tell them to go to hell," which is like so cool of her. She's like, "You can't intimidate me out of writing about creepy creatures. Shut up, leave, get out." And they just couldn't do anything to her. So they just would like come to her, say, "Hey, what would you if you were told to stop writing about UFOs?" And then they would leave. And because they couldn't do anything to this woman for some reason, they would just go around town like bad mouthing John Keel, who's the guy who wrote the Mothman book, the Mothman Prophecies, I think it was called. And they would just say, John Keel's like a huge liar, right? To just like random people. And they're like, "Okay, thanks, man." And then they would just disappear from town and never show up ever again. There was one like funny Men in Black type of guy that came into this woman's office and was like fascinated by a pen in her office. He came in to like talk to her. He saw a pen on her desk and he was like, "Whoa, what is this? What is this crazy contraption? Oh, this is amazing." And then she was like, "You can just take the pen, right?" And he was like, "Oh, yeah, I can take the pen? Ooh." And then he just ran off with the pen. And that was like the extent of the interaction. So it could just be like a weird little man who really likes pens, but also maybe it's just like a fun, whimsical little man in black that also just really liked pens. And trying to think of all the Mothman things. There's so many things. There was also, I mentioned yesterday, the Mothman gives you pink eye thing. The thing, I opened up the Wikipedia articles that I remember what it's called. Actinic conjunctivitis, which is the type of pink eye that you get from ultraviolet rays. And a lot of people who have like alien encounters and stuff, or that see like a UFO, will get it. And it's just you know, it's pink eye, but just not from evil bacteria, and it just makes your eyes like swell up and get red and uncomfortable. And so it's strange that sometimes people who look at like a UFO will get it, but also sometimes people who look at the living creature that is Mothman will get it, even though it's like uh black or gray, and the only light on it is the eyes. Very, very strange implications about Mothman's eyes, I'd say. Can't appreciate a good pen, you're practically a devil as far as I'm concerned. I do love a good pen. I need to find a really good pen. There's this one pen that is like floating around my work that every time it makes its way into my area, I'm like, oh my god, it's the pen, because it's like an incredibly juicy pen. Every other pen you kind of have to scribble for a little bit to get the ink flowing, but this pen is just, it's a top quality, like really good pen. There's so much ink in that. I'm gonna be so sad when it runs out of ink. I really relate to that little Men in Black who really liked pens. uh, Also, there's people who have seen sort of Mothman-esque like creatures at other events, but I am less likely to believe those, I think. uh, just because I don't know. There was one that I remember specifically that it was like people were like, "Oh, I saw a Mothman in Chernobyl," but that was like probably just 100% totally fake, because the Cryptonaut podcast, which is my main cryptid podcast that I listen to, one of the guys on it actually wrote one of the first articles about the like Chernobyl Mothman, and he was like, he specifically said, yeah, that was a point where I just wasn't doing all that much research and I was kind of just making stuff up a lot of the time. So he kind of like perpetuated this Chernobyl Mothman thing that is like 99.999% probably fake. So don't believe every Mothman sighting you see on the internet, I guess. Uh, there's also the like bridge collapse that happened. That kind of made everybody stop talking about Mothman because they're very focused on like the horrible tragedy that happened in their town, which is totally reasonable. But for that, some people claim that they saw Mothman on the bridge, but some people also said that they saw sort of Men in Black type of guys like walking suspiciously around the general vicinity of the bridge, like pre-collapse. There's a lot of Mothman Men in Black connections. There's a lot of Men in Black hanging around that guy. Aren't they all fake though? No, 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 no. No, Mothman real. They're real to me. Some cryptids I'm like, yeah, that's probably totally fake. Uh like I'll always leave like a little like 0.1% like maybe it's real for some of the ones that I don't care for. But most cryptids I'm like, there's a chance. That could probably be real. Shadow people are real. You're looking at one right now. Why not Fresno Nightcrawler? Why not Bigfoot? I like to keep some whimsy in my life. I like to be silly. But I do definitely totally believe in like the Men in Black and Mothman, just because it brings some like spice into your life. Because I've never really seen a spooky creature, but I do wish that I would. I think it'd be fun and neat. Everybody else who gets like scared and traumatized, nah, I'd win. I would take out my phone and take a picture. I definitely wouldn't faint. Chernobyl exploded because of Mothman. Yeah, that's the that's the Chernobyl Mothman thing. It's like because people have decided that Mothman shows up at like sites of disaster, but that was I think probably mostly just John Keel being like a little too silly about it in his book, because he did kind of embellish stuff to my knowledge. Like the Mothman events were happening for like kind of a long time, uh, and he just, like specifically gave a timeline of like 13 months or whatever, or something, some amount. It was 13 something months or weeks. I don't know. I forget. I'm stupid. But he was like specifically chose 13 because it was the spooky number, and actually the Mothman sightings had sort of dropped off a little bit before that. But he was just like, I need to get the spooky number in my book. I need to make it sound like really important and cool, because he was really into just like his theories of why there was Mothman and all that. And he kind of made himself a little bit of the main character. He had a little bit of main character syndrome. He really wanted to be the main character of Mothman. Bigfoot's a big ape. We have big apes in Asia, Africa, and people. Yeah, people is big apes. Bigfoot is just a very, very hairy man. Mothman was just going towards the really big light motion for some reason. No, no, go towards the light! Monster of the week, you'll find they're quite powerful, actually. Apartment complex. I find it quite simple. Okay, here's another, like, sad, lame cryptid that I don't care about. It's rods. That's just bugs. In my humble opinion, that's just bugs. Bigfoot's just my crazy uncle. He doesn't like to shave. It's reasonable. I support him. I support his decision not to shave. But yeah, rods are like, people will just take pictures and see sort of just a strange shape in the picture and be like, oh my god, oh what, it's like a mystical creature, it lives in the sky, and it's just like a tube with a bunch of wings. Every time I look at them, I'm like, that just looks like a moth, but like stretched out. That looks like a moth was just like flying across the camera as it like shuddered, and it just took a bunch of pictures of the moth. Also because of the way that the wings move. I want to look up like pictures here. Oh no, you can see what browser I'm using. Oh no. Every single picture I've ever seen of them, it just looks like, oh, that's cute. That's not what I meant. What are why these are not the images I was looking for. Whatever. But here's like a explanation image, I guess. But the way that they are shaped, it really does just look like the like wing movement on a creature. Like here is like a really low quality image, but like the wings go up and down and up and down, and it feels very, that's a bug to me. Why are none of these images of actual rods? This is so sad. Here's another one. See, moths. Like this is just actually a moth. Like obviously because there's a giant light there. But see, I don't know. That's just one of the ones that I cannot, even the 0.1%. But what about the whimsy? For me, that's just bugs. That's just sad cryptid fans not understanding cameras. I have nothing more to say on rods. I'm a rod hater. I'm a certified rod hater. Orbs, on the other hand, I could maybe hang with an orb. I could maybe be an orb guy. Very rarely I could maybe be an orb guy if it's like a really convincing orb, but probably most of the time it's just dust or like a small gnat bug. But I like the idea. Orbs give off a nice vibe. This is now wearing an alien hat looking in the woods for cryptids. I'd rather be cryptid hunting right now. So yeah, there's another one of my sad nothing cryptids. We also have skunk ape, which not quite to the level of I don't like it as a lake monster. It is just Bigfoot but smelly. But I think it's like a high C or like a low B. We'll put it on C just to be like kinder to the lakes monsters, but I do think that skunk ape is just fun. Also that there's a couple of pictures that somebody took of it that look like reasonable, and then like it moves in between the pictures, like it closes and opens its mouth. I can appreciate that. Even if it's fake, it's like it's a fake with a nice picture. Most of the time they're so blurry. I want to be able to see his face. Also, it's just like Florida Man Bigfoot. I think that's funny. I like that it's Florida Man Bigfoot. Just Bigfoot, but he smells and is like kind of meaner than Bigfoot. At least in most of the stories, we're not paying attention to the Bigfoot that attacked a child right now. We're just talking generic Bigfoot. He's just like Bigfoot's weird like stoner older brother that moved to Florida. That's all I have to say on Skunk Ape. I do think it's funny that like some old woman is the one that supposedly took the pictures of him. She's like, I heard like weird sounds outside my house. I took pictures. I think it's an orangutan that escaped from the zoo, and it just does not look like an orangutan at all. Also, when I was looking up the pictures, there was like something saying it could be like, uh, I don't know if it was an animatronic or like a wax sculpture or something from Ripley's Believe It or Not museum, but that it's not quite correct because it does move. I think it was actually a sculpture that people were claiming that it might have just been a hoax picture of like the sculpture edited or whatever, but it does move in between the shots, like its mouth opens and it like turns its head a little bit. So, who knows? Perhaps Skunk Ape real. I just like the image mostly. I just think it's a fun image. He looks like he smells. He looks like a stinky guy. Okay. Here's a good one. Here's a good one. This is like high A tier, not quite like incredible, amazing cryptid, but this is just like a really weird one that I think is interesting. Is the Sandown ghost clown, which is not actually a ghost, or at least not like obviously a ghost in any way. And it was just like these two little kids in England in a town called Sandown, makes sense. Were just like frolicking about in the fields or whatever. And they saw this like weird clown looking robot creature. And they were like, "Whoa, who's this guy?" And not knowing about stranger danger, I guess. I guess they don't teach them that in England in the, I don't know, 60s. I forget what year it was. But they just see this weird clown man and they go up to them and they're like, "Oh my god, hi. What's up? Who are you? What are you doing?" And they just have like a lovely little conversation with this weird clown man. And he invites them into his weird clown hovel. Like he had like a weird I don't remember if it was like a alien-esque spaceship or just a shack. I think it might have just been a shack of some kind. But he like invites them in and they have a lovely little conversation for a while. And they're like, "Hey, are you a person?" And he's like, "No." And they're like, "Are you a ghost?" And he's like, "Not completely." And then he just like says some weird cryptic things at them. And then they go home. So at least he didn't do anything evil. I can appreciate that he didn't do anything evil. And he's just like a weird little clown man. I need to know more about the weird little clown man. They only saw this guy once and then he never happened again. I like it when cryptids have like multiple sightings of them, but the really, really weird, like interesting ones are always like one person saw it once and then never ever again. And I'm like, I want to know more though. Like, sounds like some older guy just trolling some kids. It was like there were a lot of weird things. I do have an article about it up just because I could not remember all of, there's so much lore. Let me look through it. So okay, so it was like these little 7-year-olds in the 70s, like hanging around in a golf course that was near the town, and they heard a weird sound that was like a siren, and so they obviously followed it because they're children and they're stupid. And then they see this weird, like, I don't know, clown man. And he just showed up behind a bridge. And then they go up to him and they just talk to him. And let me try and find like the lines. It's very strange. It was very strange, but I don't remember any of it, so I'm having to read this article as I speak. Uh yeah, he had some kind of like weird microphone, and he talked into a weird microphone and like looking directly at them. He was like, "Hey, are you still here?" They were like very obviously still here. And so they just went over to him, and he took out a book. He had a book in his hands, and when they saw him, he did like a funny little fumble, and he dropped it into a river, and then he had to pick up the book from the river, and then they like ran over to him, and he had the book, and then he wrote in the book, "Hello, and I am all colors, Sam." So maybe his name was Sam, who knows? And then they just hung out in his weird little hut, and he like ate a berry or something by like putting it into his ear and then like moving it around inside of his head and then swallowing it, I guess. It was just like the incredibly like ridiculous nonsense stuff that like little children could have probably just made this up, but I just think it's just so there's so much happening there. This is a very oddly specific creature. I just think it's funny, so he goes in A tier. There's there was so much happening in that story. I'm gonna send the link to it in chat just because there's so many words on this page. Let me put this. I don't know if any of you even actually care. I can't tell the story properly while literally streaming. Read that on your own time. Yeah, it's like either a weird alien situation or like some creepy guy in a costume. But at least the creepy guy in a costume possibly didn't like do anything evil to these children. He just said nonsense to them and then they went home and like told their parents and their parents were like, "That's nice, dear." And then nobody ever saw him again. I hope he went back to space and had a wonderful life. There's that. There's my opinion on the ghost clown that's not a ghost, but maybe a clown. I feel like so lame right now saying my stupid cryptid nonsense. I'm gonna keep being insecure this whole stream. Sorry. Whoops. Whoopsie daisy. I can't help it. Okay. We have Flatwoods Monster. I kind of don't like Flatwoods Monster on principle. Just because, one, it looks kind of dumb, and also because it might have given some people cancer and killed a dog. And I know that Mothman killed dogs, but he gets a pass because he looks cool. Flatwoods Monster does not look cool, so it goes in low B. It's just a not very intriguing creature. But the story for that one is that a bunch of kids, it's always a bunch of kids, saw like strange lights because the Flatwoods Monster may or may not be an alien, and they like went to go investigate up in the woods, and they saw this crazy creature with like a weird dress and a oddly shaped head, and then it like spewed some sort of evil, like I forget if it was gas or like some kind of like liquid at them, but it like spewed some sort of evil substance at them, and then they all got sick, and then like years later they all maybe or maybe not, it's unclear, died of various cancers, and they had a dog with them, and maybe or maybe not, it's unclear, the dog might have died like a couple of days after, which is just rude of the Flatwoods Monster. They were literally just looking at you. I don't even think they threw a rock or anything. They just looked at it, and it was like, all right, well, get gassed. Which is like, they couldn't have just had a nice little conversation? Nothing? Come on. Be funner. Be more fun, Flatwoods Monster. Although, I do have, like, a beef with people who are just like, every cryptid is some kind of bird. Because the Flatwoods Monster is, like, very not bird looking. At least the way that it was described. But every time you look it up and you see, like, the skeptic people talking about it, it's like, well, it was probably just an owl in the top of a tree. Which is like, that's not what an owl looks like. What do you think an owl looks like? Where did the metal skirt come from? Why was it, was it just like an owl on top of a metal teepee? Where did that come from? What do you mean? It's too easy to say that everything's birds. Monsters are often rude. But you have to at least look cool while you're being rude, I think. I think you have to have some redeeming quality if you're gonna be rude and kill people's dogs. And looking cool, is not a redeeming quality for me. There was, going back to Mothman because I'm an insane person, one of the things that people say that Mothman was is a crane, specifically a sandhill crane. And I think if people think that, perish, because I've like looked up pictures of a sandhill crane, and they're like, oh, see, well, it's a big bird, and it also has red on it, and people say that Mothman had red eyes. If you look up a picture of a sandhill crane, they have, their entire face is just covered in, like, a big red blotch. It's not two of them. It's just one. And Mothman, like, very obviously had two eyes. Every time people talked about Mothman, they were like, oh, it had glowing red eyes, specifically two, multiple eyes. I mean, eyes doesn't have to specify two, but, like, more than one. Let me look up a sandhill crane for you. They're a white bird, and they have a red face. And I do not think that this is not a Mothman adjacent bird. I think it's behind, it might be behind me on the screen, I don't know if it is. This is just a bird with a red face. That's not two. That's not two eyes. I need to look on my OBS to see if you can even see it. You can see it, okay. That's just one blob. This is not a Mothman. This does not give me Mothman vibes. Sometimes you can look at a bird and be like, yeah, maybe somebody would be creeped out by that. That's just a bird. That's just a regular bird. Miss me with that. Don't try to tell me Mothman is a bird. If you think Mothman is a bird, get out of my house. Strong opinions. Here are two not actually cryptid creatures, but I just think they're fun, so I put them on the list anyway. Is the hide behind, which I'm gonna be a weirdo and say that it's A tier just because I like it. I just think it's funny. Like, the hide behind is one of the fearsome critters, as is our next guy on the list, the squonk, which will probably go in B tier. I'm just putting both of my fearsome critters up right now because they don't even really count. But hide behind is kind of like just a big, long dog that follows you around in the forest and hides behind things, hence the name when you try to look at it. And then it may or may not come out and attack and kill you if you look at it, which is hashtag relatable, as the children say. And then the squonk is just a horrible, ugly little beast that cries all the time, and you can find it by its trail of sad tears on the ground. And if you capture it, it melts into a puddle of tears. Which is like less fun than the hide behind, but also hashtag relatable. I too melt into a puddle of tears if you try to hang out with me for too long. Squonk is S tier. S for squonk. You know what? I'll move them up. They can hang out in the A tier. They're like, put a little line over here so that you know that they're not real cryptids, and I do know that they're both fake, but I just think they're fun. Skunk's entire existence is pain. Oh man, poor little guy. Thought that was just something from Gravity Falls. I did not know the hide behind was an actual thing. Yeah, the Gravity Falls hide behind was, I liked that little short. I will not play that on stream because that will make Disney upset at me, I'm sure. But I do like the hide behind Gravity Falls short. It's not the same like type of creature as the original hide behind, but it is just fun. I just like there's like a picture. I'm afraid to like show screenshots. I'm fearful of like Disney deleting my entire channel. I'm not even monetized, so it doesn't even matter. But I am afraid. But there's like at the end of that little short, it's like Dipper is walking around in the woods and like looking behind him to see the hide behind, and it just keeps hiding behind trees and stuff. But there's this one image where it's hiding perfectly behind the tree and it's doing like a fun little pose because it's trying to fit in like the shape of the tree. And it has like its thumb up to like match like a small branch coming out of it. I just think it's a funny little image. Fearsome Critters is fake, as we all know, unlike the DCP BRs. Yeah, exactly. Those are real. Don't try to pretend that cryptids aren't real to me. To me, living, breathing cryptid. Cryptid adjacent creature. I'm not sure if shadow people actually count as cryptids. More just an urban legend type of thing, since we're not like physical creatures. I have both a very loose and very strict definition of cryptid at the same time. Cryptid is arbitrarily just a thing that I think is cool that probably maybe does not exist, but also possibly does. That's my definition. It has to be something I think is interesting, which is why it's hard to find things on the list that I don't care about. I had to throw in a couple of things that I just think are just a regular animal in order to have anything on the lower tiers. Here's another thing for the lower tiers, though. Alien big cats. Lame. That's just a cat. I get it. It's strange that there's, like, a leopard hanging around in England, but, like, that's just a cat. It'll die eventually. You don't have to worry about it for too long. Give it, like, 10 years, there won't be any more. Unless they start breeding, but then you would, like, know that they're there. Because then they would be an obvious invasive species. So it's fine. It's not a big deal. That's just a cat. I'll take the spot of copyright king. I just count all my copyright strikes because I have notes when I get rid of it. I have 116. That's so many. How'd you manage that? Are you just playing full movies on your YouTube channel? I'm still like afraid of doing anything vaguely related to anything that is copyrighted just because of the if you remember the Santa Claus movie debacle where there's just like a span of like 5 minutes or something in the middle of my uh watch along of a like no longer in copyright film that YouTube decided to copyright get me for anyway and put up a screen in the middle of my video saying get copyrighted idiot lol and just like removed some time. I'm still upset about that. I wanted to watch my silly little like out of copyright film and I wasn't allowed. I do kind of want to do another watch along type of thing at some point, but I'll have to figure out how to do that well while not getting in trouble with the internet police. I know that a lot of the time when VTubers do watch alongs, it's just like a blank screen, and then they just have whatever time code of the movie or whatever that they're at just hanging out in the corner. But I feel like that's so lame. That's not fun and interesting enough for me. But I do kind of want to do more. I do still want to force all of you people to watch Blazing Saddles with me. Just make it everybody hate me and think I'm evil for liking that film. It's a good filter. If you get offended at me watching Blazing Saddles on YouTube, then oh well, be gone. I warn you, Brutal Legend is all copyright. I live streamed it and got blocked all around the world. Ooh. I hate copyright. I think we should just abolish copyright. I do know that on, I think Twitch, you can stream like certain stuff. I think like stuff on Amazon Prime probably because that they own Twitch. I think there's like something that you can sign up for where you're allowed to stream their stuff actively on Twitch, but I don't know, and I don't really feel like doing Twitch research. I did kind of want to start to stream on Twitch a little bit just to see what it was like streaming to YouTube and Twitch at the same time, but it looks hard. I was looking up how to do it. It looks difficult for my tiny little pea brain. I'm not sure if I'll be able to do that. Maybe someday, at some point, possibly. Who's to say? Brutal Legends is a great game. I only got it because Jack Black was in it. I don't know anything about that. I haven't really. I don't keep up with anything that Jack Black does. I know that he was in Kung Fu Panda. I know that he was in School of Rock because they made me watch that all the time at school for some reason. And I know he had a music video that was animated by Chris O'Neill from Oni Plays, from Oni and G. And it's the only thing I know that Jack Black has done in recent years. I'm sure he's done a lot more, but I do not pay attention. Oh, he was in that Jumanji movie. And I only remember that because I saw a picture recently where somebody was like, people keep trying to humanize Blathers from Animal Crossing, but we all know he'd look like this, and then it's a picture of Jack Black in the Jumanji movie. And I think I agree. I think that's a good Blathers. Twitch has a special copyright feature where when the stream is down, it mutes all the parts that have music. Yeah, I do know about that. There's like you can like split your audio or whatever. But I do think there is something where you can play certain Amazon shows and they will allow you, but I don't really know. I haven't looked into it because I don't really use Twitch. Anyway, I should probably go back to talking about cryptids, huh? Let me look at my notes again. I feel like I haven't looked at my notes recently. And I wrote so many notes and I'm forgetting all the things that I wrote down. It's not in any particular order, so I have to keep like glancing back at it and being like, have I missed something? I probably have. Let's see. Next one on the list is the carnivorous pink cloud. This is another strange, odd and strange one. That's not really a creature. Sort of just a atmospheric phenomenon. But it's fun and strange. This one is, to me, it's not quite as fun and interesting as an A tier. I think it's probably a B. Probably a B. Clouds with teeth, or is it acid? I think it's acid. It's some kind of, like, evil cloud that melts the flesh from bones. It's very much a probably not real type of situation. but it was like another Florida thing. There was some area in Florida where people claimed to see like a sort of pink fog, like it was very close to the ground, and it would just sort of slowly move across this area. And if you looked like in its path, there would just be like full skeletons of various animals. Like there were no living animals in its path. It just killed everything, and presumably melted the flesh from their bones. Although nobody ever saw it happen. And like there were rumors about people like drifters and such disappearing, and people were like, "Oh, they got ate by the cloud." And also, there's like uh, a legend that it's like the ghost of like a Native American chief who did something evil and got cursed. But the Native American chief is just actually not a real guy. He's just like a folk story character. So that one's like probably super fake, but I just like that it's called the carnivorous pink cloud. Specifically, it's pink. Probably because of all the, I don't know, blood the creatures, blood and flesh turns it pink. But I choose to believe that it was just like giant, like cotton candy pink, just like fluffy little cloud hanging out and rending the flesh from the bones of woodland creatures. I think I've seen something like that where there was no bones, it was more of a mist, or I might have been high. But there were a bunch of theories. One being the like Native American curse. But then there was also like it might be some sort of like really hot geothermal something, or just fog that the light hit it so that it looked pink, and there also just so happened to be bones around, and also like toxic waste. And it was during the Cold War that people were seeing it, so they were like, maybe it's some sort of like nuclear weapon testing thing. But there's not really any actual evidence of it or anything. It's just sort of a legend in this one like town area. But I just think it's fun. I just like a fun, strange event. You could tell me anything and I'll believe it at least a little bit. I'm a very gullible person. It's because I need to have something fun and silly in my life. It can't all be real. It can't all be taxes. I do want to see some sort of paranormal something someday. I'm kind of mad. I feel like everybody I know has seen some sort of paranormal something and I haven't. It's like I'm immune. My brain is just too big. I can't I can't open my mind to see all the strange creatures. Ignore the fact that I'm a strange creature. It's not relevant right now. uh Also, we have not deer. This one is like a high B for me, I think. Like, I just like uncanny valley things, I think. Not deer is more of like an internet era sort of like halfway creepypasta thing that's like probably not particularly real, because people don't realize that deer just look kind of weird. Like, if you don't live in a place where there are deer and then you just see a deer all of a sudden, you sort of like assume, oh, it'll probably look like a horse but with antlers. But deer are like oddly shaped and they have like kind of creepy goat eyes, and they're not particularly horse-like. But like sometimes people will see like a deer on the side of the road just like hanging out, and they'll see it really fast and they'll be like, "Whoa, that looks strange and evil. I've seen something that is not quite a deer." And so it's like they're some sort of evil mimic, or like a predator that pretends to be a deer so that it lulls you into a false sense of security. If you look up not deer on like Google Images, there's a bunch of pictures of deer with like wolf eyes just like photoshopped onto the front of their heads. But I just think the concept of a creature that looks mostly like something but not quite is just very fun and interesting. I like a creepy little uncanny valley. It's fun. It's neat. I don't know if I would particularly believe in a not deer or any sort of not woodland creature. I'm thinking the weird deer from Adventure, the one with the hands. I haven't actually watched any Adventure Time. I've just seen like little clips of it. Uh, So I know about deer with not hands, deer with hands, and I know about I have approximate knowledge of many things creature. I have approximate knowledge of Adventure Time, you might say. I never watched it when I was a kid because at one point, my I watched probably like half an episode of it, and one of my relatives came in and they're like, "Why are you watching that? That's like a boy show. It's got boy humor. Stop watching that." And I was like, "Okay." And I stopped. I turned it off because I was like embarrassed. And then I never watched Adventure Time again. Maybe I should. Is there a lot of Adventure Time? I feel like that show was on for a long while, but I don't remember exactly how long. I'm so bad at the timeline of like shows being on TV. Cartoons are for all. It's so true. I also think that anybody can watch a cartoon if they want to, but if like an adult came in and told me that cartoon you're watching is cringe when I was younger, I'd be like, okay, I'm so sorry for being cringe, and then I would just never watch it again. I was like afraid of watching cartoons other than SpongeBob in my house, basically, because I was like, somebody might be watching. Somebody might think I'm cringe for watching this show. And so I just don't watch cartoons in front of people. There are 10 seasons. That's a long time. That's a lot of seasons. I do know that Adventure Time got like really, I don't know, dark as it went on, I think. It like started out very silly and then they started bringing in like horrible, scary villains. And like, I think Finn like lost limbs or something, which is crazy for a kid show on like Cartoon Network. They really went hard. It was always dark. Well, forgive me. I haven't seen it. I all I know is that there was some sort of everybody on the internet was like, "Oh, it takes place after nuclear war," and I don't know if that was canon or if that was just something that people made up. I don't know. I'll read the Wikipedia page for it later, I guess. I'll gain second and third hand knowledge of it instead of actually watching it because I'm lazy. That's true. The nuclear war thing. Crazy. How did they get that on TV? There was like a point in children's cartoon history where they were just kind of letting you do anything and go crazy. And then they got like boring again, I think. Either that or it's my nostalgia talking. Because I remember just at one point when I was younger and I was actively watching a lot of cartoons on TV, was that like there was like crazy stuff that was like, how'd they get that past the censors or whatever? And then after a while, it was just like they went back to doing generic children's shows where nothing happens. But maybe I'm just not looking at the right cartoons. I haven't really watched like a new show in a very long time. I mostly just watch old stuff that I've already watched or that I missed. My favorite cartoon shows is the regular show. I think I liked regular show, like as an idea, as a concept. I only ever watched a couple of episodes of it, but it seemed fun. I have seen the original like short film, I guess, that it was kind of partially based off. It was like called 2 in the AM PM, I think. It was like a sort of like stoner comedy thing. And it's like just like 5 minutes long. I did watch that. If the rest of the show is mostly similar to that little short film, yeah, I think I'd probably enjoy it. I should probably also get back to talking about creatures. That might be good in the talking about creatures stream. We also have Stickman. I love a Stickman. I think Stickman is also an A tier cryptid. Just because it's another one where the whimsy really gets me. Their Stickmen are just Stickmen but real. So it's just like a very flat, skinny, like literally just a cartoon drawing of a Stickman that just is in the actual real world. One of the stories that I thought was very like fun and kind of spooky about Stickman was there were like these two people that I think they were like out with friends or something. It was like a guy and a girl. And the guy was like, "Oh, we'll go like hang out at my house because I guess we've been drinking or something, or like we've been up really late, and so I don't trust you to walk home on your own." So they just like both went to his house. And when they were walking over to his house, they saw on like the other side of the sidewalk a very like flat like little black line drawing of a person, basically sort of just like uh skipping along the street. I think they actually described it as like having like a jaunty little walk, which is very funny. And it was just like skipping along the street, and it just like looked kind of incorrect. I love a thing that looks incorrect, and it was like literally completely black little line drawing shaped thing, and they both saw it and they both got very like weirded out and spooked. And so they uh I think it was like they noticed it and then it noticed them, which is such a common cryptid story thing where like you look at the creature and then the creature looks back at you and you have like a little standoff for a second before they just like come at you. And this one was like they looked at it, it noticed, it looked at them, and then it seemed to like get mad that they had seen it. And so it like chased them down the street and they like ran into this guy's house and they like beat it to his house. They opened up his door and they like went and hid in the hallway. And they could still see the door, and there was like there was a window in the door, and so they were looking through the window, and then after like a minute, the stick man just like walked up and sort of like looked through the door with its weird little flat stick man head, and then just left. And that it's like it sounds so silly. Like I saw an evil stick man and it chased me down the road and then it looked in my door and then walked away. But I'm sure if it happened to me in real life I would like scream and cry and throw up. It's just another one of those things that it's like an actual big scary animal as a cryptid usually won't interest me. But if you give me just like a odd little guy, just something that doesn't really make sense, I will be all over that. There's also every time I think about it, I think about these old videos that I know are like definitely fake. But it's like uh the side of a building and you can see the just like this really long spindly like black slender man looking creature like climbing up the windows. I think that's cool. That's a cool fun video even if it's definitely not real. But I just imagine like these people running into the house, hiding from the stick man, and then just the stick man climbing up like around their house like a gross evil spider, which didn't happen. But in my mind, I can make whatever I want happen. I think it's just a fun idea. Also, I like a creature that's like not from the right dimension. That's I think a good way to describe it. Something that's like not fully from the 3D world. Like an extra dimensional like 5D like Cthulhu being, very cool, but also like a two-dimensional like if it turns around you won't be able to see it anymore type of creature, I think is even more cool. I don't know why. I don't know why that's like cooler in my brain than just like a Cthulhu monster. I think because it's like, how did they get here? I mean, I guess the Stickman could also conceivably be some sort of like four-dimensional beast, and when it comes into the 3D world, we can't perceive it, so it just looks like a Stickman. But I think it's funnier if the Stickman are just like people from Flatland that just showed up and are like, whoa, how fun and interesting this three-dimensional world, and then, I don't know, get really mad when you see them. There's such a thing with like looking at a creature and then it just gets mad that you saw it. I don't know why that's such a common thing. Most creatures don't want to be looked at, which I can understand. But it's weird that they get so aggressive about it. If somebody stares at you and you don't want to be stared at, I think you should probably just like run away, get behind an object so that they're not looking at you. But every cryptid ever just like see somebody looking at them and they're like, I need to kill this guy immediately. Just run directly towards you, guns blazing. Or like, I don't know, horrible monster, fangs and claws blazing. Anyway. Next on the list is Hopkinsville Goblins. The Goblins. This is another one that I don't really know all that much about. All I remember is that it's like they're maybe aliens, because I think there were, like, as often happens, strange lights in the sky or whatever, that may or may not have been meteors or UFOs, who's to say? But a bunch of people in Hopkinsville saw, like, lights in the sky, and then this one family just had a bunch of goblins show up in their house, and they kept trying to shoot at them, and like couldn't hit them, or like when it hit them, it just sort of bounced off. And then everybody was like, "Whoa, you guys are crazy! Let's all go like hang out and like point and laugh at the crazy person's house." And so people would come and like point and laugh at the crazy people's house, and then the family who saw them started like charging admission, and then everybody was like, "Oh, okay, so you're like totally lying about your goblins, right?" But they were supposedly just like charging admission for people to come in just because like we live out in the middle of nowhere. It's free money. If you're gonna come and point and laugh at our like goblin house, at least pay us. But well, then it kind of backfired on them because once you start making people pay to see your like possible cryptid home, they get mad and leave. So what was even the point? But anyway, goblins. I am gonna say, because I don't really know that much about them, I feel like weird giving them any sort of ranking, honestly. But I feel like I don't like them as much as I like any of the A ones. Just because it's just kind of an alien. It's kind of a like wiggly hand motion, probably an alien type of thing. So it's probably B. We'll put them next to Dover Demon because they match. Because I don't know. Aliens don't quite intrigue me unless there's like way more than just I saw a light in the sky and then a strange creature. It's sort of in the vein of the Flatwoods Monster, really, except for they didn't do any horrible crimes against people and dogs, at least to my knowledge. I don't know. I think it was this just they showed up and were like weird and creepy in the vicinity of some people who owned guns, which is a poor choice. That's a bad idea to do that. Then we have pale crawlers, which is just like any weird humanoid, like a pale thing. Sort of like the rake, which I know is a creepypasta, but that's like when you look up pale crawlers, most of what comes up is just the picture of the rake. So that's like the best descriptor of it. But those are like just strange, not quite men that look like weird and like emaciated and kind of corpsey, and just are creepy in public. um, Usually it's like you see like a weird, gross man on the side of the road, and you're like, "Oh my god, whoa, what's this weird, creepy, gross man?" And then they just disappear. So many things you see them and they just disappear. It's so sad and lame. What's the point? I want them to do something. I want them to do a flip. Skinwalkers. Maybe? I was like iffy on putting like skinwalkers and wendigos on the list just because I'm not sure if I count them as cryptids or like mythology creatures. And also, it's kind of hard to tell what like the difference between them is because so many people have mixed up the stories in their brains as if they're like the same thing. And so I wasn't sure if I would be like correct about any of my opinions because people on the internet could just lie to me. So I picked this one because it was kind of like adjacent as just like a creepy person shaped thing, but like not quite. It's sort of more generic. There was one story from one of the podcasts that I listened to where somebody saw one of these in like a house that their family was thinking about buying, and it was like they were taking this tour of like this kind of like creepy old house that their realtor was trying to sell to them, and he like went into the garage, I believe it was, and saw just like a weird creepy corpseman like sitting around in the garage, and they got like this weird brain, like, I don't know, mind control type of feeling of like, oh, he's like happy to see me, he wants me to like come in and hang out with him in the garage. But luckily they did not go and hang out with him in the garage. And then like they had been like separated from their family who was touring the rest of the house, and one of their parents like came back and was like, oh hey, why are you like looking in the garage, come over here. And the uh, pale crawler just sort of like walked into a wall and dissipated, which I thought was fun and interesting. Because usually, stuff like that will just you'll see it and it'll be on the side of the road and you'll drive past and so you won't see it anymore. But it's interesting that it just like walks through walls. Apparently, ghost? Question mark? Who knows? When they be closer to mythology due to being tied to the native religions, yeah. I mean, there might be a couple of things on here that are kind of mythology-esque. I mean, Hide Behind and Squonk, obviously, like silly, not real thing. I also have on the list doppelgangers, which is like maybe, but like there's also some doppelganger stories that people have supposedly like in more recent years actually seen a doppelganger-esque creature, so I put that in because I feel like it counts at least. Skinwalkers mimic an animal, there's something wrong with its form, wendigos or brutes. Yeah, skinwalkers are like sort of like evil wizards, basically. It's probably not a like proper descriptor, but it's like a person who does some sort of evil magic to be able to transform into animals. Animals but scary, usually. And then a wendigo is just you eat people and then you turn into the people eater monster. But they do feel more mythology to me, I think. Anyway, two pale crawlers. I think just because it's like it's so creepypasta coded. It might have to just be in C. There was just the one interesting story that I heard about them, but I don't really there isn't really anything else, I don't think. It's usually just I saw a strange naked man on the side of the road, and like that could just be like a strange naked man on the side of the road. It doesn't always have to be a creature. But the one where the kids saw them in like the garage of a house they were gonna buy, that's a weird one. That's a fun, strange one. So he goes on like higher up C tier. Also, I only just started putting things on like high and low versions of the tier. I'm not sure. Let me review my tiers. Mothman, I think, goes above. These two go above Fresno Nightcrawlers. Fresno Nightcrawlers are there because they're fun and whimsical. There's not really all that much sauce to them. I think this is like reasonable as a list. I might actually put Black Eyed Kids up here. Black Eyed Kids might go on top. And then these are fine, I think. The rest of these are fine. Rods go on incredibly low F tier. I hate rods. I'm anti-rod. And next is sewer gators. This is another one that is just literally just an animal. But I just really like the picture of it. I don't know if you can see it very well, but if you Google sewer gators, there's like a news article about somebody in Florida who saw it's always Florida. Somebody in Florida who saw just an alligator hanging out in the sewer, which is like a reasonable place to see an alligator in the sewer. It is Florida. They do have a lot of alligators. It makes sense that one of them could make their way into the sewer, but it's just like this alligator sticking his head out of a dark hole. You can see like his eyes glowing, and he's kind of like doing like a silly little alligator smile. I just think that's fun. That's just a fun image. As an image, S tier. As a cryptid, F. Worthless, because that's just a real animal just living in a strange place. The kid really wants the ball. He wants to play catch. Won't you play catch with him? He's a friendly little guy. He will not bite down on your arm. He will gently take the ball out of your hand. He will be very kind to you, I'm sure. Who couldn't trust this face? Then we have Evil Muppets. I'm gonna be an insane person. I'm gonna tell you all about Evil Muppets, but Evil Muppets do go on S tier. I feel mean to the Fresno Nightcrawlers, putting them everything above the Fresno Nightcrawlers. But I think Evil Muppets stays. Evil Muppets is a highly specific, totally ridiculous thing that I just love so much. Because, it's like, it's so hard to explain. But it is quite literally just Muppets, just like little puppet people, but very evil and very rude and mean. And I only put Oscar the Grouch up there because it was the first thought that came into my head for like a Muppet creature that looks very scruffy. Sorry, Oscar the Grouch, I don't mean it. I love you. But okay, let me try and get the lore straight in my brain. they're like, I think the best way that I can do it is to tell one of the stories that I have that I've heard. There's like this. It usually happens sort of when a kid is alone in a house, because like you wouldn't want an adult to see the evil Muppet creature. But one of the stories that I heard was there's a kid who was like staying home, quote unquote, sick from school, faking sick, and he was at his grandparents' house, and so he was like laying down on their couch, being sick, and he heard like a door creak open, and he was like, "Huh, what is like one of my grandparents home?" And he saw like a little Muppet creature like come out of the closet door, and it just said like, "Is she gone?" Like referring to the kid's grandma probably, and another Muppet from like further inside the closet was just like, uh-huh. And so they both come out of the closet and they're just like investigating around this kid's grandparents' house and like looking around. And the kid is fascinated because, oh my god, it's a Muppet real. And just sort of goes up behind one of them and like taps it on the shoulders, like, hey, what are you doing? And the Muppet like turns around and is like incensed, like full of rage, and it like pinches him on the arm hard enough that he bleeds. And it looks like it's gonna like come beat him up, and so the kid just like runs outside into the yard and just sits in the yard until his grandma comes home, and that's the whole story. And then there's another one where there's like a kid who wakes up in the middle of the night, and like his mom and his brother, I think, were also in the house, but they were asleep, and so he like goes out into like the hallway or something, and one of the windows is a little open, and there's a Muppet like trying to crawl into the window, and the kid is like, "Hey, what are you doing?" And the Muppet's like, "Oh, I'm trying to get into the window." They all have like weird, deep, scratchy man voices. Also, that's like a common theme. He's like, I'm trying to get into the window. Help me out, kid. Help me in under a window, kid." And the kid is like, I know, well, I'm not really sure I want to do that. It's like I'm getting the Stranger Danger vibes now. Actually, now that the whimsy of seeing a Muppet in my house has faded, and then the Muppet just starts like yelling at him, like screaming abuse at this child to like let him into his house. And so the kid like runs into his mom's room and locks the door and just goes to sleep. But in the morning he like went out to check and the window was still slightly open, and one of the lights in the hallway that the kid had turned on was on. So he was like, well, it couldn't possibly be a dream. It was like a real evil Muppet. And something that I also heard, oh my throat. Ugh. Something that I also heard on the interview with the Black Eyed Kids guy was that apparently he saw an evil Muppet when he was a child. So that's like, and I'm not sure if he had heard the other stories, because when he mentioned that, he sounded sort of like he thought that the people interviewing him would think that he was like being silly. But there wasn't really any more to that story other than like he said that he just saw a Muppet-esque creature like hanging out in the real world, like walking around. So he didn't clarify or like expand on the story. But I kind of want to know. I'm intrigued about the evil Muppets. So it just seems like it's like kids will on occasion just see like sort of a Muppet creature walking around, not a puppet being puppeted, but like with actual limbs that can move under their own power, just walking around being suspicious, like in their homes. And then they just kind of don't get the end of the story. I want to know what the evil Muppets are doing. I need to know what the evil Muppets are doing. There were also a couple of little like anecdotes that were less the Muppets like physically interact with the child, but that they like show up on TV, like usually the middle of the night, possibly a dream situation because it is the middle of the night and they're just watching TV, so there's not really any like physical evidence of anything. But it's like a kid will wake up in the middle of the night, TV will be on, and then they'll see like Muppet-esque characters on the TV, but then they'll start like talking as if they can see out of the TV. I don't remember any very specific ones for that, just because the Muppet pinching the kid on the arm so hard that he bled stuck so hard in my brain. I kind of deleted all the other ones. But it's just like a Muppet will show up on TV and like talk to a child. And and then the child will be like, oh my god, that's terrifying, and then just put the covers over their head and go to sleep, because children are immune to everything when the covers are over their head. Kids fall asleep so easily in all these stories. I don't think I'd be able to do that. Remember the frogs outside your window as we speak. Oh my god, you guys. Well, I am on an upper floor, so I'm not sure if Kermit the Frog could climb that high. He has very spindly little legs. I don't think he has the upper body strength to climb up to my window. I just like these ones because they're just so ridiculously strange. They like live in my head rent free forever now. I'm gonna occasionally think about evil Muppets every day until I die. I need to find like more evil Muppet stories that aren't just on the couple of podcasts that I've listened to. But they're just so odd. They're so weird. He jumps off the building, he can land on the window. He's on my roof. I hear the like flip flop of little Kermit feet on my roof. I wish. I want to hang out with Kermit the Frog. I don't even care if he's gonna pinch my arm so hard that I bleed. I'd let him. If only to hang out with a celebrity. Okay. We're almost at the end of the list. Oh god. Okay. Doppelgangers. Doppelgangers is also sort of like a mythology thing, but there are a couple of stories that I've heard of something sort of doppelganger adjacent. It's sort of like a creature that's mimicking a person, so not like necessarily a perfect doppelganger that looks exactly the same, but something that, once again, like one of my favorite things, looks not quite like a person. So it's like somebody will see somebody like from behind and be like, oh hey, that's like person that I know. But then they'll like turn around and there'll be something like horribly wrong with them, like not in a way that it would just be like a person with some sort of facial deformity or whatever, but like monster-y. One of the stories that I remember was that there was some guy who was like at some sort of family event of some kind, like a family reunion or something. So he was staying at somebody's house, and all the beds were taken, so he slept on the couch, and he was awake like all night. So you sort of have the like your brain is going screwy because you've been awake all night thing aspect to the story. But it's like he was awake all night, and like the sun was starting to come up, and he heard some like walking around upstairs, and he was like, oh, somebody's awake. And so he like looked up to see who it was, and he was like, it could have been either his mom or his sister, because his mom and his sister both look kind of alike. And so he was like, oh, hey, good morning. And like there was no response, and there were a bunch of pictures sort of on tables, as people have in family homes, and whoever this person was seemed like incredibly intrigued by all these family photos, and so it like didn't respond to him when he said anything to it. And so he was like, weird. And then he like it turns around in such a way that he can see its face but it can't see him, and it looked like a perfect like 50-50 mix of his mom and his sister. And it had like white eyes, I think. And so he's like, oh, this is something that was like horribly evil wrong with this. I'm gonna go pretend to be asleep on the couch. So he went down back to the couch and like laid down and pretended to be asleep, and it came up really close, and it looked at a photo album that was like left out on the coffee table, and it was fascinated once more with these family photos. And then his sister's cell phone, it was like left near the couch, started ringing. And the creature like looked at him and noticed that he was like half having his eyes open, like still trying to look at it while pretending to be asleep. And then it just like started screaming like no at him, and like its eyes turned black, and then it just ran away. And like it just left the house, which is silly but also deeply terrifying to think of that happening. I would hate that so much. But I just think that was like a fun, interesting story, that it was like maybe trying to get its disguise perfect or something by like looking at all these family photos and trying to morph itself properly into one of the people, but like it couldn't quite get it. and then, as many creatures do, it gets really upset when it sees you looking at it. But at least this one didn't like try to kill him. It just ran away like a big coward, which is funny. It was its first outing trying to like mimic somebody to kill them or something, and it just got really self-conscious and just left. Mandela catalog is the thing that comes to mind. They've been getting popular. They were popular a while ago, and I wouldn't say have been getting popular. Did that end, or is that still going? I don't watch really any of the analog horror stuff because it all kind of feels like the same thing to me. I watched a couple of things like that, and they were always just like, what if there was an evil creature that was killing people? And that's it. What if there was an evil creature that was killing people, but I got like a picture of it on VHS, and also somebody was tampering with my VHS to hide it. Ooh. They all seem like the same story to me, so I kind of got sick of them. I'm sure there's ones that are interesting, but I haven't found any. And I also don't really have the patience to watch series of things on the internet a lot of the time. I get very lazy with stuff like that. I think it's still going. I remember there was some sort of, I don't know, controversy about it. Didn't the guy have, like, as a plot point or something, that, like, people who saw the mimics committed suicide, and then he, like, apologized for putting suicide in his horror project, even though that is a scary thing to happen. It's not weird that you would apologize for putting scary things in your scary things project. I don't know. I didn't pay enough attention. All I know is that people were mad about something on the internet, but like when are they not, right? People are always upset about something. Back to cryptids before I say something that gets people mad at me. I think doppelgangers go in the same general vicinity of not deer. They're kind of the same vibe. There's something that is not correct. But I won't say I'm like intrigued enough by their existence to put them in like a really high tier, and they're not. I don't know, they could be considered a classic. Let's put them really high up B. Although the classic version of them is more of a mythological, like, you see it, and then you see, like, your own doppelganger, and then you die. But I feel like they're still sort of, you know, kind of a big deal. People like doppelgangers. Here's a silly one. Medford Schmooze. They're a little bit Fresno Nightcrawler-esque, honestly. They're just, like, little white, furry, peanut-shaped things that some family saw, like, driving down the road in, like, the 50s. That's literally the whole plot. There's just a family driving somewhere down the road in the dark at night, and they thought that there were like a bunch of geese crossing the road in front of them or something, so they stopped so as not to hit the birds. Very nice of them. And they just saw these little white, like, things with no limbs and like no faces just walk across the road and then out into the forest. And then they drove home, and that's the whole story, which I think is very funny. Just like, and also they're called the Schmooze, which is endearing. I like that they're called Schmooze. It's a funny word. I think they go just like in the same general area as the hide behind and the squonk. They can go in between the hide behind and the squonk, because they're nothing, but they're like funny while being nothing. So I can appreciate it. This is like an incredibly arbitrary list. There are no hard rules about anything on this. What it'll do is it won't harm you. It'll tell you every secret that your brain can handle, and it convinces you to do it. The Mandela catalog things. Yeah, I have very, very vague knowledge of the Mandela catalog things. I don't care. I feel like it's like mean to say that I don't care about certain pieces of media on the internet, but I don't care. I can't bring myself to be interested in a lot of things just because people, like, I don't know, overhype them. I hear so much about them that I just kind of I don't care about them on principle. um but yeah. That's my opinion on analog horror, is that I don't really care on principle. Okay. we only have 3 left. Oh no. Oh geez. It's fine if you don't want to just look at things on the board. Yeah, I've like basically what I do when I don't really care about something, but everybody is talking about it, is I'll basically look up the Cliffs Notes. Like I'll just Google it and read whatever like couple of paragraphs of information I can find about it, and then I'm like, good, I've experienced it. I know what everybody's talking about, and I don't need to actually look at it myself and use up time because I'll probably end up just being kind of disappointed. I don't know. This is making me sound like a horrible person. It might. I should probably shut up. I don't like to watch stuff if it takes a long time. I just like to learn what everybody's talking about and decide then if I care or not. I learn by osmosis a lot of the time. 100% what I do. Yeah, it's easier that way. I don't have to get invested in something that might end up annoying me in the future. Okay. Here's another one that's kind of nothing. Jackalope. I'm sorry, Jackalope. You're going in F tier just because I know for a fact you're not real. um, I'm pretty sure there was a specific guy that like made the first jackalope taxidermy and just like sold them and was like, here's my animal that I made up, and just people were buying them, and he just like openly came out and admitted it and was like, yeah, I made it up. And they're all fake taxidermy. Enjoy. He also I completely forget this guy's name, as I so often do, but he also tried to make catfish, which was a cat sewn to part of a fish, uh, as like Jackalope 2.0, but he couldn't get enough cats because cats are beloved pets, and nobody wanted him to do that to their beloved pet's corpse. So they didn't really take off. So he only did jackalopes. I don't know if this is like an what do you call it? A apocryphal story or anything, but it's what I've heard, and I think it's funny. But jackalopes do still go on F. High F though, because I think um it's interesting that there's like what the original like myth, I guess, might have come from, was that there's a disease that rabbits can get that makes them sort of grow horns. I don't want to look it up and show you an image because there's probably going to be like unpleasant dead animal images sprinkled throughout the results or something. But it's like I don't know if it's like a parasite. It might be, but it makes like their, I guess, bone growth or something go into overdrive, and so they end up getting like what look like horns, just like sort of all around their face. And that might be where the original like jackalope story came from, was people saw rabbits with horns, like I don't know, hopping around in the fields, and we're like, oh my god, whoa, what a crazy interesting creature, not knowing that it was like a horribly injured, like diseased animal. Which is, I shouldn't like giggle, but I always giggle. I giggle constantly. I'm so sorry. You should watch There's a Man in the Woods, a 3-minute animation, really good. I think that's been like suggested to me on YouTube a bunch of times, but I'm not sure if I've ever actually clicked on it. I may go watch that later. I don't want to like show too many like random animated shorts on my stream. I made an exception for DC Paperman because I thought it was funny, but I feel kind of rude just like putting up somebody's YouTube video on my YouTube video. I'm stealing. I'm a thief. I'm a criminal. Um. Okay. Here's another one that is not really. I don't really care so much, but I think I'll put it in C, just because there's a chance that some of them could be something interesting, which is globsters, which are just like weird, gross, decomposed things that people will like pull out of the ocean or that will get washed up on beaches. Um, Most of the time, when something gets washed up on a beach and it looks like a horrible, uh, undiscovered beast, um, people will do DNA testing on it, and it's 99% of the time just like a really gross, decomposed whale or something. But just because there's so much stuff in the ocean, there's a lot of weird things going on down there, I'm sure. There's a possibility that some of them are some sort of uh I don't know, undiscovered creature. I'm not a marine biologist or anything, so I feel like I can't really say much about them. But yeah, mostly it's corpses. But maybe it's the corpse of a strange thing. So you get to be in C tier, just below lake monsters. Um, just because they look scary a lot of the time as well. Just because when you decompose bits off of a whale, they really do look like some sort of horrible evil predator. Like if you look up globsters, there's a bunch where it's like I think one of the SCP images was taken from one of them, the one of the like the lizard that can't die, whichever number that is. I don't remember that one, but I think that one might have also been like a whale, like a smaller whale. But the way that it decomposed is like you can see its the front part of its skull, which is like very pointy and full of teeth, coming out of what looks like hair. And so it really does look like some sort of like evil creature that would eat you, but it's just a gross skeleton. So for the fun monster design factor, it goes a step up from F, even though it's mostly just a whale. SCP-682, Google says. I don't remember any of the SCP numbers. I'm really bad at it. I think the only SCP number that I remember is SCP-087-B, I believe, is the stairs, the never-ending stairs. And I only remember that one because there was a guy that I used to watch on YouTube many a year ago that I think has stopped uploading completely, and stopped like quite a while ago actually. But he made a video playing through the SCP-087 game, and it lives in my head rent-free forever. Every once in a while, one of the things that he said in that video will just like appear in my brain unprompted. uh, if you wanna watch some good old ye old YouTube content, his username was like 666 the Heartless 666. Very, very old internet username. But I thought he was quite a funny guy. I miss him. I hope he's doing well. I actually haven't checked on his YouTube channel in a while. I used to every couple of years like check to see if he had uploaded anything new, just in case he made some kind of triumphant return. But he never did, so I sort of stopped. If somebody goes on his account and he's like suddenly uploaded like 10 new videos, I'm gonna be so like excited but also scared. Okay. Our last one is Lizard Man. I picked this picture just because I think it's funny. I don't know if you can see. If you look up Lizard Man on Google, I think like 6 of the images were just this image of a guy in like a lizard, like scaly. I don't know what's the lizard version of a fursuit, because I know that the lizard version of furries are called scalies. But anyway, you see this guy in like a lizard costume, just like doing a little jaunty walk through a field. And it's just a funny image. I think lizard men, there's so many different types of lizard men. You have like conspiracy theory lizard men that live in the hollow earth. And then you also have like alien lizard men from space, as aliens are. And then sometimes it's just like uh a little bit more like a lake monster, like thing from the Black Lagoon or whatever it is, where it's just a lizard man walking around in like a small town terrorizing teenagers. There's just so many different versions of Lizard Man. This feels like kind of a weird one to end off on because I'm not going to give it an incredible rating or anything. I think Lizard Men just go for B. They're just kind of there to me. I think the there's never been a Lizard Man story that has truly intrigued me, but they are sort of a classic. People do often talk about a Lizard Man. So I think they're just a B. Also, the picture really knocks him up a little bit. I think the picture's that's just a good picture of a lizard man. It's sad how small it is. I kind of want to zoom in. Let me just zoom in really far. Wait. Whoop. Behold, Oscar the Grouch and also Lizard Man. This is bad. Look at him. That's comedy. That's a comedic guy. That's a silly dude. Okay. I just like evil Muppets. Everybody, please look up like evil Muppet stories for me. I'm begging you. I need everybody to know as much as possible about the evil Muppets. Ignore me while I small in this again. I actually there's probably a button that I can press that'll just make it normal sized. Let me see. Transform center. Oh no, that just puts it in the center. Makes sense. Let me manually small in my cryptid tier list window. I'm a professional. Get back to normal size, please. Is this normal size? It's normal size adjacent, I guess. Here's my... I'm moving things around that I don't even know what I'm moving around now. Oh god. Oh wait, I think I accidentally changed the size of the window weirdly. Wait. Me. There it is. I accidentally cut off bits of it. Okay, there. Is the official Eilis tier list. Oh god, I should have given myself more time to do research and actually write stuff out, because I was just sort of talking off the top of my head. I feel like there's probably a lot of interesting things that I totally forgot to mention, and then the moment I end the stream, I'm gonna like look back at my notes that I haven't really looked at this whole time, and then just get embarrassed that I didn't tell you all of my fun cryptid semi-knowledge. I do feel a little bad that there's not that many. I feel like every list that I looked up had so many, but they didn't have like labels on them. So a lot of them were just like a close-up blurry picture of like some leaves or like a vaguely Sasquatch looking creature, and I was like, I don't think I can visually tell just by looking at these things what the cryptid is supposed to be. So I feel like it wasn't a very incredible list. But now you know some of my cryptid opinions. My cryptid opinions is that the sillier the better. I love a silly little guy, but I also love a deeply scary and kind of horribly threatening guy. Whatever you couldn't read, just read it off right now. Let me refer back to my notes that I didn't actually look at. These are like horribly written, by the way. So it's gonna, if I actually read it off, it's gonna be nonsense. Okay. Shadow people, S tier, because self-love is important, and also Hatman is there. That is my only note for shadow people, and it's all that I need. Fresno Nightcrawlers are S, because I think they're fun, and the comedy of errors that is their evidence story is very funny. And then I wrote out the evidence story, which I previously stated, which is still very, very funny to me. They just had to use like 6 different cameras to get these creatures on the news, and then just didn't even bother like saving the original VHS tape. Like I think it just got lost. I think actually somebody, if I remember correctly, somebody like called this guy that took the original video at some point and was like, hey, do you have like your VHS tape still, so that I can get like better quality video of this instead of like the horrible crunchy news footage? And he was just like, oh yeah, totally, sure. And then he got back to them and he was like, I lost it, sorry, bye. And then just never produced the video. So either he was lying, it was fake, or the Men in Black got to him, which is what I choose to believe. Everything is the fault of the Men in Black. Then Mothman says S because I'm a cryptid normie and there's so much cool backstory. And he killed a bunch of dogs, maybe, but you know what, it can't all be whimsy, are my 2 main points on Mothman. Men in Black, I wrote they're S tier because there's so much weirdness and they're very varied. And I think sometimes they're probably just regular government dudes being threatening because government dudes are threatening. But I think other ones are like not people. Maybe like different flavors of not people. Like I know that some of them are like come off as aliens, but I think some of them could also just be like I don't know, a robot. There's some of them that are robot-esque. Maybe just some sort of like other dimensional, not quite an alien type of creature, just because I think things from other dimensions are a good category of cryptid. I think there's not really enough cryptids that you could comfortably say are like a thing from another dimension. I think mostly it's just like the Mothman sometimes, and probably also the Stickman. But most of them are just like an animal but weird, which is fun, but not as fun as other dimensions. I'm a sucker for another dimension. Bigfoot A, just a good classic cryptid. Loch Ness Monster, A, for similar reasons to Bigfoot. All the Nessie copycats are C, they're middle of the road coattail riders. They didn't have the charisma to get by on their own, so they have to all be nicknamed after Nessie. I feel like looking up like Loch Ness type monsters, they're all called like something-y. There's like what is the there was I think one called like Chessie. I don't even remember what like lake that one was in. They do have the one from Lake Champlain that's just called Champ, which I guess is like not exactly the Nessie name, but they did just take part of the lake name and call the monster that. I can't really remember anymore at this very moment, but they're derivative. There's just so I just don't understand all these derivative cryptids. Come up with something fun and unique. The black-eyed children wrote a 0 on their charisma check. Well, I don't know. Maybe they seem like sort of I don't know. I'm trying to think of it. I think the stories that we hear about the black-eyed kids are the ones where they rolled poorly on their charisma check. But like you don't know. No actual black-eyed kid stories I think exist where somebody like let them in to like their house or their car or whatever. So you don't know what happens if you let them in. Maybe if you let them in, maybe if they roll high on their charisma check, they just kill you. Also, I just realized that my stream BGM has been off since we watched the Paperman thing. Oh well. Sorry, you had to listen to me hem and haw in complete silence about my cryptid opinions. Oopsie daisy. It's too late to fix that now. Should I just turn the music back on? I might as well. I'm already here. There it goes. I didn't realize. Oh no. This music really does not fit the vibe. I probably should have looked for like vaguely spooky music, huh? Okay, for the Black Eyed Kids, I just have like a long spiel about the Brian Bethel story, but I think I got through that pretty well. I think I generally gave you the rundown of his spooky encounter. So that one's not, I don't have to keep talking about that. Wouldn't be an Eilis stream without some scuff, you're right. I do kind of feel bad though. I even have the music playing in my ear. Like, I don't know, there's an option that I don't know what it's called. I think it's monitor audio or something, where you can hear whatever music you've put in your scene. And I have that. And I'm hearing the music in my ears now. I wasn't the whole time. I completely forgot because I was too busy thinking about cryptids and apologizing for being bad at cryptids. Well, at least my internet didn't cut out. At least we have this. At least the Men in Black didn't cut my internet. I have a DC Paperman, which I mentioned as adjacent to Men in Black, so that they didn't get their own picture, because I don't think I would have been able to find a good picture of them. Because they really are just Men in Black, but like slightly more specific. The Loveland Frogman is like mostly just a Lizard Man event, but the first sighting, the Whimsy knocks it up for me, so they got an A. I was like, B, but the Whimsy, so A. And how the guy that says that, oh no, it was totally just a big iguana is a coward, and I hate him. My only note for Goatman is the Goatman's Bridge episode of BuzzFeed Unsolved live rent-free in my brain, which it does. There was really no information in that video, but it's just so important to my brain. I remember the whole, like, Goatman, I dance on your bridge, I disrespect your bridge, Goatman. That whole thing is in my head forever. What makes me a good demo man? If I was a bad demo man, I wouldn't be here discussing it with you. What are you talking about, demo man? Is it because I've broken things? I've demolished my stream. Okay, Dover Demon, I wrote, B because it's just like a basic weird little guy, but it's not actively lame. And that, Bill Bartlett, one of the kids who saw it, swore on a stack of Bibles he saw it, so I can't disbelieve the poor lad. That's it. That's my notes. Oh, also that some people... skeptics. Dirty skeptics. said that it might be a baby moose, but like, shut up, they don't have fingers. Why would you think that? Look at that image. That is not a moose. Why would in what world would that be a moose? Every time there's like a weird cryptid, it's like an odd creature, somebody will say, oh, it's just regular animal, and then I'll look up an image of regular animal and it looks nothing like the cryptid. Like, I know that witness testimony isn't like 100% reliable or anything, like often people will just fully misremember stuff, but cryptids are just so specific. They're so odd. I feel like it would be hard to forget that. Like, imagine you saw a baby moose, which is just a moose, but smaller and with like no horns, and that's it. And then coming home and being like, oh my god, I saw this like white hairless thing with long spindly fingers and a giant head and no mouth. You would look at a baby moose and go home and like 20 minutes later edit it into your brain into that? Shut up. False, I don't believe you. And Skunk Ape is written down as the Florida man of Bigfoots. And that's it, that's his only note. Rods is F tier, that's just bugs. And it is just bugs. Evil Muppets, S tier, because like what on earth, right? And then I just wrote down like what the stories were, and then Muppets with anger issues is so wacky I have to love it. Like I can't put them on a low tier. I just have, it's so strange. I love a weird. I love just a weird thing that doesn't make sense. It's the best kind of thing. My fearsome critters just got like one little note section. This is, they're not quite cryptids to me because they're like obvious, like fake, and everybody knows it. But I do think that the hide behind and the squonk are funny, so they get to be on the list. How's another Ace Attorney of Cryptids? Objection. I object to that's just an animal stuff unless it's for a rod or like the Beast of Busco. A creature can only be that's just an animal if it actually looks like the animal. If you see like a weird, strange thing, and you're like, no, that's a regular thing. No, it's not. It's weird and strange. We know that we can see visually that it's so weird and strange. Don't try to gaslight me. You're an evil gaslighter for telling me that the Mothman is a crane. It's not. It's not even the right shape. It doesn't even have a neck. What position would the crane have to be in for it to look like it had man legs and no neck and also 2 glowing red eyes? I don't understand. Where's the whimsy? People should be sillier. I think you should wholeheartedly believe in silly things. Because what else are you gonna do with your life? Pay taxes and go to work? Ew, gross. That's no fun. Then, my note for the Flatwood Monster was wore a stupid little outfit and gave people cancer maybe and killed a dog maybe. And that's my only... that's my only note. And the Beast of Esco is the guy kept trying to bring it snapping turtle girlfriends. And sad to say, probably an F, because I just don't like cryptids that are an animal but large. Which I think I made pretty clear. My carnivorous cloud notes are basically exactly just what I said. So that's not important. Stickmen. Oh, one of the things that I forgot, I did actually forget something, was, I don't remember the exact words, because I wrote it down in my notes like a little bit after it was said in the podcast I was listening to, but it was described as something sort of adjacent to like a humanoid hole in reality. Like it looked like, kind of the air was like bending around it, and like it was so black that you couldn't see light through it, like it was like vent black. So that's fun. That's scary. I like that. I wonder what would happen if you touched it. You think you would just like, I don't know, like your fingers would get cut off because it's 2-dimensional, or like would you get sucked into a black hole? I need to know. I want to believe. And then for tail crawlers and like gross weird corpse dudes shaped like humans but gross. Really needed to mark down that I thought they were gross. And oh, I wrote a little Dover Demon-esque but just grown up. There's my cool theory, is that the Dover Demon was just a baby pale crawler, because it's a weird little human shaped like pale guy but it's got like a bigger head, and like baby humans have big heads, right? Proportionally. That's my cool theory, and you can't disprove it. Everything I say about cryptids is true, actually. And then for the doppelgangers one, I wrote down a little reminder to myself of the story about the kid staying up all night and then seeing the mimic doppelganger person, which I already told, so that's not important. And those are all the ones that I actually wrote notes down about. Some of the other ones I was like, I'll just wing it. And then I said nothing of import. But yeah, maybe at some point in the future, I'll do like actual real research into something and talk about it. Because I feel like it would be fun to maybe like, I don't know. I have a big interest in just weird stuff. I love stuff that is weird, but it's really hard to find good information about it because a lot of stuff, like if you read a lot of stories on the internet where people are like, I saw a spooky creature, real, not fake, gone wrong, usually just the way that they're written makes me kind of disbelieve them, just because some people are too articulate. I feel like if you're writing about something that you saw that's like not of this world, something that just like shatters your entire worldview, you shouldn't be like using thesaurus words. Like you should be like normal about it. I actually found, I was looking for, I have a couple of books in my home about cryptids and like spooky folklore and stuff. And one of the ones I found like buried in a pile of other books was, I actually have it sitting next to me, The Scary States of America. I remember when I read this as a kid, I was like, oh my god, all these, it says on the front of the book that it's 50 weird and terrifying stories based on true events. So I was reading it as a child. I got it from like a Scholastic book fair, and I was like, oh my god, these are so real. All these like children around my age saw all these creepy creatures, and they wrote this. The framing device is that there's a kid named Jason Spector, not a fake name, definitely, that writes a blog about creepy creatures and has people send like emails to him telling him about creepy creatures that they've seen, and sometimes he will go out and investigate them. And when I was a kid, I believed it wholeheartedly. I was so like into it, and I just like read a couple of the chapters just like before stream, and I was like, all of these are written in the same like character voice. And then like at the beginning of each chapter he'll show like an email or like an instant messaging conversation between him and whoever sent him the story, and they're like, hey, I wrote this story myself with my experience, here, put it on your blog. And they're all written the exact same way as the introductory chapter written by Jason Spector. And I can't believe I removed the whimsy from my childhood like that. I remember reading this book and being like so like amazed. There's actually a chapter on shadow people in this one, and also a chapter on the skunk ape. What a coincidence. I'm not sure if there were any chapters on any of the other stuff, just because I just sort of flipped through it, because I didn't have time. It's a thick book. I don't actually, how many pages is this? There are 404 pages. That's a lot of pages. But each story is only like, maybe like 5 pages, but because there's one for every state in the United States, there's a lot of material in that. One of the stories from it that I do remember thinking was really cool was it's a story about like some train tracks that like a school bus stalled on the train tracks and then got hit by a train and all the children died, very sad. But if you stop your car on the train tracks, they'll like little child hands will like move your car out of the way so that you don't die, even though the train tracks like weren't in use anymore. And at the end of that little story, it's like the main character boy, Jason Spector, in a car with like his cousin or whatever, and she like doesn't believe that there's ghosts or whatever, and then when they get pushed off the tracks, they look at the windows and there's like little child handprints on their car windows, and I was like, whoa, that's amazing. That's probably like an actual like urban legend from a certain area. I'm pretty sure they're all based on actual urban legends, but that one stuck in my brain. That was literally the only one that I actually remembered before I looked at a couple of the other ones. Yeah, it's a sad little like ghost story type of thing. There's a lot of like horrible dead child ghost stories, like all of the crybaby bridges. There's so many crybaby bridges where it's just like, here's a bridge that like a woman dropped her baby off the side of, so sad, you can hear it crying at night, and there's like one in every state. Like there's so many of them. People were just like, everybody needs to designate a bridge to be the child death bridge. It's an integral part of Americana, is having the bridge where a child gets dead. But yes. there's my detour into something that is largely unrelated to the stream for the night. I keep doing that. Okay, next time, tier list mythology and ghosts? Perhaps. I'm like, my nose is getting stuffy because I've been talking for too long. Drop your baby for $1. They're actually usually kind of like, if I remember right, they're usually kind of La Llorona adjacent, where it's just like, I don't know, I want to get a man, but he doesn't want kids, so I have to like kill my child on this bridge. So they're probably at least a few of them are based on that, but I think some other ones are just like generically somebody got hit by a car or whatever and died, and now they cry on the bridge. They're not all baby related. There's sometimes just like sad ghost bridge, but the generic term for them, at least that I've heard, is crybaby bridges, just because there's so many that have like a baby story. This is a sad thing to be talking about at the end of the stream. Can we get back to whimsy? What's something whimsical I can talk about? She threw both of her kids in the river and then felt guilty and jumped in. I mean, at least she felt bad. Kind of a poor decision to make in the heat of the moment, though. Like, maybe you should have just not done that. Maybe the killing your child thing was a bad idea. Just my opinion. Like, I don't know, please don't come for me. I'm sorry, I didn't mean it. I'm sure you had a valid reason. Anyway. Well, there's my cryptid opinions. But yeah. As I was saying before I lost track, I think one day I should do research into specific topics that I think are cool. And just give you my very own weird cryptid podcast event, just because I like talking about them. I'm not really intelligent enough to like have scientific theories or any sort of like real theory about anything that isn't just like me joking around, a la the Dover Demon and Pale Crawler theory that is copyright me now. But I just like talking about stuff and like reading spooky stories. I think it's fun. But yeah, I guess that's our very anticlimactic end to the stream. We went 2 hours on just a few, so you'll do fine. Yeah. I really do. I feel like I didn't talk about enough. I feel like there needs to be more. This is like a sad, sparse tier list. But just because all the other ones were like too many things that were very samey, and also they weren't labeled, and I would not be able to remember all of these. I just had to make my own. I hope it's good. I hope you don't hate it. I also did use a different website than the usual tier list maker website that everybody was using, because that one has a million advertisements. And also I wasn't quite sure how to go about making like my own personal list on that, because then I would have to go into an image editing program and put labels on all of my creatures, because I think that's the only way that you can get labels on that website, because I only found one tier list that actually had labels on it. And then that would have just added more time that I wouldn't be paying attention to the various things that I was listening to and reading, so... That's why I made the thumbnail in like a solid 7 minutes before, like, right before I put up the stream waiting room or whatever. Because I was like, I need to do this efficiently. I gotta listen to more of my encrypted podcasts. Yeah, it's fun to talk about. I like just talking about strange things. There's a reason that I'm the Shadowverse VTuber. It's because I like a little spooky. Okay. Well, I have nothing more to say. I'm just gonna keep like rambling and repeating myself for no reason, so. Haha, I'll see you guys later. I do actually, I just remembered. I think next weekend, we're probably going to have to pick different days for stream. Because I think over the weekend, I know that one day, I have plans on Saturday. I'm going to go, I'm going to go out to like for like a my mom's Christmas present. My sister bought me and her and my mom tickets to see a show that my mom wanted to see, so we were going to go do that together on Saturday. I don't know about Friday. I don't know if we have like plans for that too, since we're all going to be together, so might not stream on Friday or Saturday next week, but I will try to get in a stream at some point. Maybe we'll do a Sunday, Monday. You know, I'll figure it out. I'm trying to get my two streams per weekend. I'm trying to be a good boy. But yeah, I'll I guess inform you when I have more information, as you do. We'll see what happens. We will play it by ear, as they say. That's a weird saying. Is that? I think it's musical. I don't know why. My brain refuses to understand sayings sometimes. I only realize what they mean when I say them out loud to somebody and say, I don't know what that means, and then my brain will give me a brain blast and I'll remember what it means. Play it by ear means to play a musical piece without the music in front of you, and then that's why you use it to say, I'll figure out what happens when it happens. I'm learning. Information is getting beamed into my brain by the ultra-terrestrials. I know sayings now. Okay. Yeah. Well. Thank you for coming. Thank you for listening to me ramble about nothing. I'm sorry about my lack of knowledge. I'll get better. Goodnight, goodbye. Have a lovely cryptidy week. I hope you see a stick man and he doesn't hurt you. Goodbye.